What's
her
that?
committees. Betty White was in need of filling out her committees. That's why.
Oh, okay. While you guys are chewing on that, let me hold on. I started streaming already. Let me make sure it's not Squidget. Okay. It's cat time. Hello and welcome to the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge. My name is Bill Kelly. I am Hornswoggle the Great, and with me my co-hosts are...
Our guy, automotive detective, savior of all pedestrians, and protector everything geek.
And Rob the Blacksmith. Nothing more, just Rob the
Okay. That's all I qualify for this week. It's been a hectic week. Oh, today is National, I know we skip it sometimes, but National Gardening Day. Get out there, grow that shit. Okay, and National Pecan Day. One of my personal favorites, National Look Up at the Sky Day.
Oh, I almost thought you could have said look up at the Sunday.
Oh, no, that one would be fun, too. How come when I'm... Okay, you need cuddles. All right, you're really old and close on death's door.
You know what would be funny is we come across a day that there isn't nothing on. No national nothing.
There's no National Day for this one.
No national. On today, there's nothing.
National Anime Day is Tuesday, April 25th. That's coming up. But today is also World Dolphin Day and World Chagas Disease Day.
Chagas disease. Okay.
It's spread by
Interesting.
ticks.
Today is the day that you're supposed to change the air in your tires. It's nothing official. I just made it up. I tell the others.
Okay. It's very important. I know. You're not feeling
And your blinker fluid.
well. Blinker fluid.
That's right. Muffler bearings and blinker fluid are on sale at O'Reilly's.
Muffler bearings.
All right.
Your lower left gonkulator needs some new sealants. It's sounding really squeaky down there.
And don't forget your free bucket of steam.
Bucket of steam. You need that for when you're driving around.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. And beware, because this month, we still have a couple of weeks left this month, so they are doing a lot of sailboat fuel transport along the I-10. So they pick it up. They pick up the sailboat fuel here in Phoenix, and they fill the trailers, and they truck it out to Los Angeles. And that's that's what they do with all of the return trucks after they've delivered their materials.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
also, I think there's a Willow curse now that Mad Mardigan has died and now Bav Morta died. So who's next on the list? I hope it's not Sorsha. I like her best. Or Warwick Davis.
Or Warwick.
Willow. Yeah, that would be terrible. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, yeah, I was pondering that, and something else happened that I wanted to talk about. Also, it's fantastic.
Besides the earthquake?
What's that?
Besides the earthquake?
Well, that earthquake is pretty major, so
yeah,
it definitely needs some.
It's all over the news thing like crazy.
It's terrible.
which quake is that?
The one in San Diego.
Okay, so San Diego. I got a feed from my cousin who's in the area. There were three quick ones, 1, 2, 3, that were low volume. So there must have been some others that picked up afterwards.
Yeah, the one that hit like at 10:30 this morning was 5.2. But the biggest thing, as being a person that lived in California and stuff for a time, is this the big one, or is this a predecessor to a bigger one? Yeah. You can never tell, because you still got to have seismic shifts for a while after. I mean, even if you go way back to remember the one that happened to hit Oakland and San Francisco? Yeah. They had other ones before that in the weeks leading up to the major one that hit. So hopefully this was the big one, but...
Yeah. And the caldera. Oh, yeah, that'll kill us instantly.
Speaking of natural disasters, it is unofficially the beginning of wildfire season. We, being a first responder, a former first responder, I track a lot of that stuff, and we're starting to see flare-ups, and they're starting to kick. So a lot of the hotshot crews are identifying the blazes that are starting. And
Well,
so
is it going to close
it's
any camping areas?
the ones the few that I've seen so far have been very small in footprint. The problem
Okay.
is that when they start, they generally don't start where the crews can get to.
Remote?
So
Very,
yeah, so you either have to hike crews in, or in really bad situations, you have
Parachute them in.
uh, oh yeah, you have
you
parajumpers
do?
that'll go in there and hit those, and we try to avoid that because jumping into those areas
Ugh.
without a fire is difficult. So
Yeah,
Let
because you
alone
can't
when
get out of it. Sometimes you're trapped. It's hard to
yeah,
navigate through
that and there's so many
certain parts.
things you can run
well the
into,
air,
trees and boulders and side of the hill.
well wildfires tend to create their own weather fronts that are completely different from anything outside of the fire area. So they will change the thermals and the updrafts, and they can create some absolutely violent uh, wind conditions and air conditions. So it becomes very, very difficult to move aircraft in and out of the area, let alone trying to
Yeah.
parachute anybody in.
We need a backdraft style movie, but instead of in a city, in the forest.
We did.
Oh, they
They
did.
That
did,
was
yeah.
the that was the film about the
19?
Granite Mountain hotshots
Yeah, the Hot
Stand
Shots.
corrected.
in 2013.
2013, yeah. It
So,
was a good movie.
in fact, I will put, not a sponsor, I sponsor them, the Eric Marsh Foundation out of Prescott
Mm.
was started by the widow of Eric Marsh, who was the captain of the Granite Mountain Hotshots. And she has been running that program for a great many years. My Scottish Rite
Hmm.
and many of my Sonic brothers, myself, we donate every year to help, because the money that they get, they give to the families of injured and fallen wildland firefighters to help out with everything. So everybody watching and listening, if you're looking for a great place to lend a helping hand, every little bit helps. Eric Marsh Foundation on the internet. They'll be more than happy to have your assistance.
And that because those guys go into hell and they work really, really hard.
And they get no
They really don't
support
get
in
nothing.
the event that they get injured. They get injured or killed. There's no support except for these groups that come out to help the families.
Wasn't there a Yarnell tragedy a couple years back as
That
well?
was the Yarnell we were
Oh,
talking
the
about.
Granite Mountain.
That's the
Okay.
Granite
That's
Mountain.
19.
Yeah.
Right
Oh,
on
I.
19.
Okay. Okay. Whoops.
No, was it? The
So it
fire
does
breakers and
exist.
stuff that they
Yeah.
were trying to do, that
Got out of
they got
control,
them.
and
Yeah, that
'cause I
was
had
pretty
a
bad.
T-shirt. That was.
Yeah. As we talk about that and remember what happened to California. I mean,
Yep.
even when my dad was young, he worked a little bit for to help with the fire, the cut brush, fire lines and brushes and stuff back then when he was, in high school and before he went into the military. And he said they had to make fire breaks and do a lot of stuff because in that the wind could change, and just like Rob was saying, when you have a fire, the wind conditions and the thermal conditions change drastically and by the minute, and fire would jump.
Oh
Fire
yeah.
can jump great distances
With the
because the
wind.
embers can float up, and all of a sudden you could be sparking up behind you or any place around you. It is not a thing to mess with.
No, we were at the ranch one day when there was a fire, and I was amazed how fast it spread, how fast it went in every direction. Yeah.
Yep. On a
Luckily,
calm
it
day,
wasn't
it
that
can
bad.
get away from you quick. With the wind gusts, it will
Forget it.
move fast. And the guy's point, the embers can jump. Embers can stay hot for over a mile. So you can have a hot spot that you're working, and you can have a flare up a mile away because the wind picked up enough and carried those embers. They'll drop, and if they get the opportunity to start with dry fuel, off they go. And now you've got two fires. That's how a lot of these blow out as quickly as they do.
Mm. It's crazy.
And the bad thing is it can cut off your access to get out
Oh,
your
yeah.
road on it. So that's the baddest thing about when dealing with fire. You got to put the fire brakes because it can engulf and surround you, and it can flank you relatively easy. Because some of the people I know said that because it'll move. It like Rob said, it'll jump miles, it'll jump streets, it'll jump, and all of a sudden it'll flare up,
It'll be
and
there.
your avenue of escape is gone. You're
Canyon.
dealing on both ends.
Think about it this way, Bill. It's as hot. It can get as hot when the wind is driving through there. It can get as hot as that forge gets
Oh, wow.
at the base of the fire,
Yeah, no thanks.
and it will. I've seen equipment that has been consumed,
Just melted to
and
shit.
you look at the equipment. It's amazing.
They said it's like you could be standing in front of a blast furnace and feel the heat from a distance. It is intense how it is.
Fires,
And I can't even imagine. Like it's like taking a million hair dryers and putting it to your face, and that's kind of an idea. You know,
the
just for the
forge.
audience to get an idea, it's like taking a hair dryer, put it into your face, and put a whole bunch of hair dryers. You're feeling that all over the place.
I know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. The couple fires that I've had to help put out have been tiny comparatively to not anything dealing like that. So.
Yeah, so I go out for the hot shots and all them and for the firefighters, and they really need more support. A lot of people,
really do.
It's kind of out of sight, out of mind because they don't have to deal with it. They don't put much effort into it, and most people don't go.
Problem.
Somebody else's problem. And
you live in
that's
the city, you don't think about it until you see it on the news.
You know,
you're right, guys.
and a lot of them could have been prevented. You know, cutting down sagebrush, cutting down things on it, or a lot of it camping or acts of nature, but just negligence sometimes.
Yeah, they're just not.
Not anybody doing their true diligence, and man, it can really be costly and move a lot.
No.
Yep. So if you're listening and watching, and you live out in a rural area, be very thoughtful and conscious of what is always pounded into your head. I'm sure by your local Bureau of Land Management, defensible space. Defensible space around your property.
Yep. Might be the difference between life and death, literally. Or whether your home gets consumed or not.
Right, and keep your cigarette butts in the car.
Yep.
Don't park your hot car over the dry grass.
Oh, yeah, that too. It's amazing how few people smoke nowadays as opposed to growing up in the 70s and 80s and 90s when everyone was still smoking.
Well, it's even not the smoking, is people are negligent with making fire. Not putting out their fire pits and stuff on it. They're so negligent because if you really think about it, a lot of the great fires wasn't because of a negligent smoker. Somebody was trying to set a fire or didn't manage their fire, didn't put it out the fire, and
they set the forest on fire. Oh my God! So annoying.
You know, it's the same reason why they switched to jerry cans to those lock mechanisms because people were lighting themselves on fire.
Pouring gas out of
because they didn't know how to handle gasoline. It's the same reasoning as people don't know how to handle certain certain chemicals, certain fire flames. They're not, they don't take responsibility for it. And now we have jerry cans with the safety mechanism that nobody can open up with.
There you go. Oh, thank you. This is great. Yeah,
those are the same ones that clean off their metal with flammable carb cleaner before they go to weld.
Oh man! Oh my God!
Right, that carb cleaner on that tube. You dried it on the outside of the tube. Now go ahead and spark it up and hit it with the welder and watch it flame out like a rifle, or it'll flame out like a shotgun.
That's not flammable
nice
enough.
Explosion.
We're putting brake cleaner on there. There, now you want colors.
That's right.
Well, that's the reason they got away from chlorinated to non-chlorinated because people didn't know how to use brake cleaner properly. And
humans are stupid. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.
When you look at it, you have to agree with it, because that's why they got away. Remember, in our time, we used to get aircraft cleaner, the paint remover.
Yeah.
Now you can't get that anymore. It comes in a gel, and that stuff was industrial. But if you knew how to take care of it, not spray it on your skin and so forth, you could be fine if you read the instructions and did it.
You're not a
But
retard.
too many people were negligent and burned themselves with it, you know.
The fact
And
that in
now we can't have that anymore.
the fact that in 2025 we have to lock up spray paint cans at Walmart in the paint area, but you can go over to the automotive department and the engine spray paint is just loose. Proves just how absolutely stupid America has become. So if I'm painting an engine, I don't have to bother anybody. But if I'm working on steampunk stuff, can I get some help over here? I need to buy flat black, which you don't sell. Apparently, it's only matte or gloss because reasons.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's like asking somebody for satin black.
Yeah, they don't even know.
Satin is a form of flat black.
Yeah,
they just
they don't even know.
and just no glossing to it.
Yeah, which they don't even really sell flat black anymore. I don't know what. There's probably a reason. Tell it below. We don't know. But no,
you have to go to Home Depot or Lowe's to just even find it, and that's if you find it.
If you can find
usually gloss.
Then you have to bother those guys. You know. Hey, when you get a minute, can you free the paint? I would like to look at it. So,
it's
the paint.
I forget who said it. He said it. I forget who said it. It's the individual is smart, but it's the group that's dumb.
The best version of that quote is in the movie Men in Black, because he's like, people are smart. A person is smart, but people are dumb, dangerous, panicky animals, and that's highly accurate. It's why aliens don't visit us, because they know the 3/4 of the world that's really dumb will fucking panic.
Well, they don't even would want to. They wouldn't even want to come visit us.
No, they
because
just lock their doors and go behind.
Well, no, it's the Kepler effect. It's all the garbage that we have floating around with the satellites. Is that if you were trying to come in from outer space to higher Earth orbit, you have to watch around for the flying trash that can come up and destroy your ship.
Yep.
I mean, if you ever looked at that movie with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, and I keep forgetting where it is, where the space station is destroyed by debris, and the debris that hits it and just destroys it, little bitty things.
You're right.
It's all the old satellites that are up in higher orbit around the Earth creates this trash type of thing.
No, what it is, it's a security program. It's a security system. Just like if you have a 3-year-old in Legos, it's a security thing. You let the Legos go around the house, and then nobody can sneak in the house.
Yeah. The Legos are everywhere.
They're for the robotic aliens. Ow, I have hurt the sensors. The space trash.
The space trash protects the Earth for the moment.
It does. That's you know what? That's eloquent in its simplicity.
It's good proof. It's like the aliens look at us and they go, "Oh, there's the turd flinging monkeys again."
Oh, look, it's the savage lands. Yeah,
savage lands. They're not going to visit us. They're not going to even come close.
You guys want to go down there? No. We have a telescope. We can see fine from here.
Not just the current.
To get me closer.
Not just the current go around for what's happening now, but would you want any of our other leaders to have advanced technology? Fuck no.
You want to know what the scary thing about it? They even have like a theory with the Kepler effect that if you get in elliptical orbit enough satellites running into each other, creating more junk up there, that eventually that junk starts taking out other satellites, that it'll literally wipe out all the satellites up in the upper atmosphere. That might take us to the dark ages. If it becomes like a domino effect, one hits the other hits the other, all of a sudden you get shrapnel coming out, hits the other one, it starts taking them out.
Well, the saddest thing now is I work with a bunch of Generation Z doesn't really understand the ramifications of that, because they live and have been brought up in a reality that they don't own any physical media. They don't have a record collection or a CD collection or a DVD collection or a VHS collection or a tape collection. They don't have any of that. So your scenario is 100% correct. Guys like us will become fucking wizards. Stay away from my vinyl. You know, that guy's getting music. You have to turn this to keep it going, but it will work. It's called a 33 LP.
You know, there's a theory about that they have, that it's the gaslighting of society. Because, okay, let me put it to you this way. A lot of people say a lot of things could be changed digitally. Just because it's on digital doesn't mean it's in the original format. So when you get a movie, think of it like the Star Wars movies. Before the 1977, before George Lucas edited, you have movies that are done that are theoretically set up. Then George Lucas added stuff to it. As you can add anything, you can take away things. So what happens is sometimes the movies that we've seen, like Blazing Saddles and stuff, if it's on digital, may not be the same Blazing Saddles that we saw that they see. And you don't own a copy, so you can't reference it. That copy that you see now, like, here, I'll give you an example. There are kids today that are growing up, have never seen the original Star Wars. The 1977 version, have never seen it. They've only seen the updated one. So their reference, it's not the one we grew up with. So there are other movies that people have seen that they do not know the original context because they have never seen the original movie in the original format. They've seen a newer version of it. You know, it's like also, too, I've seen people that have seen Smokey and the Bandit, but never seen the original Smokey and the Bandit because some things have been edited and changed. So their version of it, when you look at it, it's minute. And what he says and what he does on it, it's different. So it's a different experience. And we're talking Smokey and the Bandit. And this is a more modern day movie, but they never seen the original one.
Well,
they never seen a full cut.
Yeah. You have this push for the edited for modern audiences, which means harsh realities removed for our gentle children. And you're not really helping anybody in the long run. You're just wussifying society. And then when they get out into the real world and something traumatic happens to them, or they're treated in a traumatically bad way, they're not going to be able to handle it. So I agree with you 100%. And I've watched it where a movie's been on cable and half of it's different. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't remember any of that. Then I go home and watch it and I go, holy shit. They're using the TV version for the real version now, which has become the norm. So your 5-year-old nephew and your grandmother won't get offended.
And it's so subtle. I mean, some of the 4K stuff that you have, that like new releases, if you get out your old VHS tape and put it up against it, then you look at it and go, well, that was subtle. This was taken out, that was added in, or it was rearranged a little bit, and it's subtle. They don't change the whole movie, but there's little things out of it that you look at and go, oh, that's interesting, you know? And this is what I say with this generation, like what you were talking about, Bill, is everything's disposable. Like modern cars, the food is self-serve. Okay, you get food now from Factor and things that come to your door, but nobody cooks as much anymore. And the funny thing is, you get DoorDash, you get stuff that's ordered and delivered to your door, front door. You get Food Factor and stuff where meals already kind of prepped for you. All you have to do is assemble it and cook it, and that's what people consider cooking nowadays. You also get cars. They want to do the battery run cars and stuff, but with any type of battery run cars, just like television, it becomes disposable. Once the batteries are done, you either replace the battery or you buy a new one. You don't rebuild it. You don't do nothing with it. So imagine 50 years time, if they were to do all electric cars, you would have electric cars being crushed up and ground up to make new ones. There won't be no junkyards because you couldn't use them. Some of these parts will become obsolete within 5 years after manufacturing them.
If car use continues, I think long after we're dead, there will come a point where new models come out by the month, not the year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I see that happening in under 400 years because of the way things are going.
They got a 3D print a car.
Yeah, the saddest part of our reality, well, it'll become Jetsons-like. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
where you buy like the licensing for it, and then it's either delivered or it's here. Just click this link, then all the link, and your large 3D printer that's metal and plastic will crank out the new model, the O2
The,
BMW,
the,
Chrysler, Tesla, whatever. Whoa,
and it'd be delivered to your
Mr.
home,
Pickle.
or or a little droid gonna drop it, or a you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Drones will deliver it to your
drone
house
will do it.
because that's the inevitable. I think that's the inevitable next evolutionary step is that
Mhm.
capitalism will only evolve. It'll never really go away as much as like a whole bunch of people suddenly hate it right now. But that happens every 10 years. All of a sudden, we're mad at
Well,
capitalism. It's because you stupid bastards have never grown up in communist societies or socialist societies. Just sit down and talk to one of those people for a long period of
mhm.
time, and you will completely change your mind on how
well,
horrible it was. But the interesting.
well. The,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was saying that to go with your thought with capitalism, the only people who hate capitalism are people who believe that
Or poor people
they should
like
get
me.
something for nothing. They should get something for nothing because
Yeah.
anybody that works understands capitalism for what it is. But if you want something for nothing, then to you capitalism is evil because I
Yeah.
can't have my $1 million house because of capitalism. No, you work and earn your $1 million house.
Yeah.
Or if you get socialism and stuff like that, that's a totally different thing on it. And unless you lived it,
Yeah.
man, it's capitalism is a lot better than socialism or
Oh my, yes.
communism and other stuff.
The problem is greed, avarice, envy, and uh,
Mhm.
the small dick theory, where the
So,
systems themselves are fine. Even on paper, communism sounds great. The problem is that humans are involved, and humans are completely flawed. And I'm flawed too, but these problems will never, because it's been tried again and again and again. And once you get to a certain level, for the reason that Thanos is an example of how uber nerds, this is what you're not supposed to be like. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, Jefferson Smith, and if you haven't seen the movie, watch it. It's a feel good, fun movie made in black and white. Jimmy Stewart, he's the best. And the movie is basically, and much like Death to Smoochie, the main character is uncorruptible. You can't corrupt him. He doesn't have the weakness of the normal human, where they can be bribed, they can be intimidated, they can be pushed, and that's what makes them. I mean, now the movie is dated and all that other stuff, and even The Simpsons made fun of it, where Mel Gibson remade it, and Homer said, "Your movie was more boring than church." Oh my God! Let's go to this guy's house.
oh, it was so funny that you mentioned Thanos, and I remember in a discussion in a chat room several years ago, and somebody came up with a great idea, and it was echoed. I don't know if it's the original idea. He says, if Thanos can snap half away to people, why couldn't he snap into existence abundance? So make everything abundable so you wouldn't have to snap away to people. You had all the power in the universe, and you could say everything's abundant for everyone everywhere. That will never run out, and it'll solve what he would been trying eliminating half because there's not enough to go around. You made enough for plenty,
That's a
and he
problem.
could have easily snapped that in there.
That's the really honestly, that's the problem when you take really a sub. Oh, Thanos is awesome. Thanos is a
Mm-hmm.
subpar villain at best in the Marvel
Yeah.
universe. He doesn't have a longevity. The fact that they pit him against Darkseid is laughable, because I'm not a particular fan of Darkseid, but dude, that's not fair. That's like fighting a child when you're an adult. Because I can answer that question for you, but the problem is that I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen the movie, so I'll have to ask a question before I can answer your question. how prevalent is Thanos' obsession with death in the movie? Is she in it
Even
from
in
the
the
beginning? Is he trying to get her?
but but even at that, even not to cut you off or something, but
No,
the
I love
question
a
that was
good
done in
debate.
there was talking about his thought process, because in the movie and in the comic book, that's the flaw,
Yes,
that you
they're
had
two
you had
different
all this
plots.
power. Yeah, they're two different plots. But even at that, the in the comics, he wanted to impress Death. In the movies, he just wants, um it's because of resources, the lack of resources, he was having everybody in the movies. So in the books, he just wanted Death to love him. So he wanted to create Death. So in the comics, it made more reason for him to snap everyone half away. But in the comics, he would have just snapped everyone away, killed everybody. If he
Yeah,
wanted to impress Death in a universal
yeah.
snap everyone,
All
I
he
kill
cares
everyone.
about is her. She's the only one that's been nice to him
Oh,
since he was an infant, and he's obsessed with having her attention. And then along comes Deadpool, and Deadpool
yeah.
makes her laugh like everything he says. So she is obsessed with Deadpool, which just like burns Thanos. So again, Thanos is the story of, and we've all gone to school with this guy. He kind of like Angus, the movie Angus, which
You
is a great movie where Angus is not only a genius when it comes to science and math and history and all of his classes, the kid's huge and he's very athletic. So the bully that picks on Angus in the movies is kind of like the little kid. It's like, and Angus, how many times do I have to break your nose? Because it's like a plankton crab scenario where the villain just never gives up. Well, the problem with Thanos is he's like so many guys that you met in middle school and high school where they're nerds. They don't have the social graces of geeks. They can't articulate a lot of their issues. They don't understand a lot of social nuance and a lot of like interaction between people. Death really symbolizes the hot cheerleader that the uber super nerd falls in love with, and he just cannot understand why she doesn't love him and why she's in love with the jocks or one of the other people in the school. It's not always the jock cheerleader scenario. That does happen quite frequently, but it's not always the scenario. Sometimes she goes out with the skater or the stoner. It depends on what school you're going to.
what? But that sets up a lot of things of it, because
Mm.
that that covers human nature. It covers female nature. It covers male nature, and understanding the differences between them. Because people that don't understand him misinterpret him and come up, and
It's
don't know how to handle one from the other.
it's
There's females that don't understand males, and there's
yeah.
males that don't understand females,
But
and that's what happens with the duality of it.
Thanos is the guy in the Eagles song, or I'm sorry, not Eagles, Doobie Brothers. As he rises to her apology, anybody else can ever see. She held a place in his life. He barely made her think twice.
Hmm.
So
The one,
death is
the one,
moved
the
on.
one in the comic.
Yeah, in the comics. Yeah,
In
again,
the,
I haven't seen the movie, but man, from friends and every review I've watched online, it hurts because on one level they improve Thanos, but on another level you've left out a main part of why he is the way he is and what he represents in the comic book world. Because I mean, and I don't know, I Thanos to me was such a uninteresting villain that I would have to read up on it, whether that was intentional or that's just me interpreting it from my own wacky, fun, bizarre point of view. But that's the way I've always seen it is Thanos represents like the comic book guy and like a couple dudes that we grew up with guy that are big that if trained would have had a athletic ability and they're also fairly smart but they're kind of socially retarded where they don't understand a lot of why is it this way dude because you kind of did this by accident you can't keep your mouth shut and I do the same thing don't worry but they don't have the reflection to not make the same mistake later in life.
Well, see, that says a lot, because if you really think of Thanos, just in Thanos itself, it tells you about society, how you react as a man, how you react as a woman, uh, what social constructs are, what aren't social constructs, and on it. Because if you look at it, it's the response to it. Uh, the Thanos in the movies is different because he's looking he's portrayed as a sympathetic hero, that he knows that resources are finite, but killing half of the population because resources are finite, it's an absolute. It's half of that, half of the people that you eliminate, the half that you leave behind are going to repopulate, and that half that you eliminated at that time will be replaced. So all you're doing is you're just buying time. You're not creating a solution. Or if you created abundance where you don't need to kill off the people, but there's always abundance there, you solve the problem with it. So how he looked at it was, he looked at nihilistically that he could solve the universe's problems by killing half of it. Now, the one in the comic books, he kind of had a hatred for,
Everyone.
because he was neglected as a kid, and through that, the only person that he knew growing up was Death, because Death would visit him in the crib. Death would visit him, so he fell in love with Death. So the only way he knows how to show love is through Death. So it's kind of odd, because if you really think about it, he's very broken, and the only reason he can get approval or looks for understanding is by killing. Every death when you kill, you summon death.
Yep.
So it's his way of giving flowers to her, because he wants to summon her, because he wants her back so he can talk and honor. So that's why he was killing, was trying to summon death to him, and to make it look, hey, look, you're death, you like death. What more of a suitor if I give you abundance of death? So to him, it's like giving her flowers.
Yeah.
He thinks
No,
he
no,
can win her affection with it.
that's a good analogy. Killing is giving her
Yeah.
flowers, because
So he doesn't know any
it's
better.
kind of
He doesn't know any better, and he couldn't care less about anybody else. So in the
yeah,
comics, that's what made him a good villain, because he didn't care. He
yeah.
was totally, I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to win the love of my life, and that was it.
He's kind of
Very much the narcissist
the super
Yep.
because he.
narcissist that's super smart but also retarded at the same time.
Oh, yeah. The two, yeah, the extreme narcissism and a limited intelligence tend to walk hand in hand because they have such a myopic view of the world around them. They can't see the big
See the
T
whole
when
picture.
people
Yeah,
talk about truth.
Yeah.
They can see the little t, which is whatever happens to fall within their narcissistic point of view, their narrow focus. And to Guy's point, it was very interesting the thought, why not take the extreme opposite position?
Mm.
I think that if it was a conscious thought from the creators at Marvel, who tend to be the ones that like to humanize all of their characters, both the villains and the heroes, what is the basis instinct of the human mind from the moment that the first Homo sapiens and even each progression prior to, the first and foremost has always been to be aware of the negative, because the negative is danger, death. So the human mind has always leaned towards the negative, has always been thoughtful of the negative. What is the bad that is happening? What is the potential bad that could happen? I'm in a dark place. I don't know what's outside of my immediate view. Therefore, this darkness is bad. This is an evil place. I have to be on my best. It's bright out. Okay, that's great, but there's something over here I can't see behind. So there's a danger over there. There's a potential for problem. So that, I think, subconsciously maybe might have also been conscious thought that because the Marvel creators have been very good at humanizing their characters in very subtle fashion. That I think is probably something that got pulled in for that very purpose. And that's why the decision was not made to take it to the next level. But that goes with so many. I mean, Lord of the Rings is still very popular right now, and you think about the Lord of the Rings uh, in a similar fashion. What did everybody who was a good character wish to do with the ring if they could? Well, they thought, if I can take it, then I can use it for good.
Good.
But I have to take it,
Yeah.
and there has to be that negative action
And it's
to
going to
do so. And there
corrupt
was a
you
limited
as soon
number.
as you do take it.
Exactly. And there were too few within that realm who could look at it and say, yes, this is too, I have enough consciousness to understand that this is something that cannot be taken to that direction. I have to look for the positive another way.
Yeah.
So, you know, that becomes the case. That's when you bring in your Tom Bombadil characters who are as pure as they can be. Much that you had spoken earlier, Bill, about the character, Mr. Smith goes to Washington. He can't be corrupted because he doesn't understand that. He doesn't believe in that aspect of it enough to be able to be corrupted. And that's where the Tom Bombadil character came from Tolkien after all of these decades of people reviewing that and thinking about it. He's another character that has that most pure and simple and basic instinct. It's not necessarily good versus evil, light versus dark, right versus wrong. It's the existing. And you cannot corrupt somebody who understands the existence.
And that's the beauty why it lasts so long, is because you can tell people are like that at times, where they're like the Tom Bombadils, where they see things for what it is and what it represents and so forth. So it's not money, it's not fame, it's not materialism, it's not anything you can promise them is not going to change their character, because they are thoroughly secure in who they are, what they stand for, what they believe in, and they will tell you likely what it is, and they will tell you what they see as what it is. So they are not easily fooled. So if you come up bearing gifts, they'll accept your gifts, but they got to realize why you're bringing the gifts
Yeah. That.
and your motivations, your hidden agendas. So with Tom
Right.
Bombadil and with other people like that in characters, that's why they're incorruptible, because they understand you better than yourself, and they can see you as you coming from a mile away, because they understand that they read beyond the page, let's say.
Right. All of the constructs that you bring, the idea of power, the idea of wealth, the idea of ownership, those are all constructs. And all of that is fleeting. Existence in and of itself
It is
is
fleeting.
the constant. That is the constant that exists. And all these other constructs have no value over time. You will either outlive them, so power goes away, wealth goes away, whatever can go away,
Yeah.
or it will outlast you.
So it just
Existence
needs
will
to go
outlast
away.
you. So it will not survive.
No.
So understanding that
No.
aspect, it's like the old idea. The person who understands the word enough is the most powerful person that you will ever meet in your life,
True.
because they
Speak into the
understand they're
cat
not
butt.
going to strive for, they're not going to claw for, they may find something that tickles their fancy, but they understand there is a point, there is an existence, and anything beyond that has no value, has no use.
It's trivial.
And that is major foundations in Stoicism and a lot of philosophies, is to center yourself and so forth, because a lot of it doesn't have value to a person like that, because it doesn't give them value. It doesn't offer anything that's permanent, that the solution of it. So they see, and that's why the statement, it is what it is. The statement, it is what it is revealing that the truth is the truth, and there's no sugarcoating it. It is what it is. It's like the Tom Bombadils will tell it to you straight and how it is in real life. And the reason for that is, why sugarcoat it? Why do anything with it? It is what it is. It's basic and simple. So what happens is, a lot of people, there's a statement out there that they say is that the truth sounds like hate to those who hate truth. And some people can't handle the truth and they shy away from it. And I heard it once too, and you guys will let me know who said it. It says that life is the beautiful lie, death is the cold hard truth. You know, so what happens is that the truth is the truth, and the truth sometimes it's brutal, it's harsh, it is unyielding, but it is the truth. And a lot of people can't handle the truth because they don't want the truth about themselves.
No.
So a lot of people don't like accountability, don't like looking inward to themselves. So they can't acknowledge, they don't have accountability of the truth. So if you were to tell the truth, means you would even have to tell on yourself. And even if it paints you in a bad picture, because, oh, I did that. You have to own up. I made that mistake. I did that. I was a fool. I did that. I shouldn't have done that. You have to take accountability for it. And that a lot of people cannot do. It's so hard. They will do everything, everything in the kitchen sink to avoid that. Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't that. I didn't do that. It was somebody else. Or
Avoid accountability.
this person made me do that. Or I grew up that way. They use every other excuse except acknowledge that they were in control. They did it. You know, they were at fault.
I
And
used to
that's
give a lecture
Mhm.
about truth, and it was called the water bottle lecture. I don't know
Ooh.
if I told you guys about it. And what I would do is take a water bottle with no labeling or anything else, set it out, and I'd say, "What is this?" Somebody would say, "Well, it's a water bottle." Is it? Let's take a look at it and let's see what the truth about it is. I'm holding before you a apparently clear container with a lid and an apparently clear liquid in it.
Mysterious,
That is the
viscous.
truth as we know it. Exactly. And
Yeah.
that would be the basis of the lecture, and then go through the lecture and explain, now how can we find out what it is? Or take the lid off. Okay, so we took the lid off and we smell it. Do we have a smell?
It
So
smells like acid.
now we have a apparently clear container with an apparently clear liquid that apparently has no scent to it. What else can we do? And you go through all the steps and eventually get to a point where you can say, now we have proven the truth is that this is a clear container that holds a clear liquid that we have proven to be water. So now you understand the progression and the reality of truth, as opposed to the perceptions that have been taken based on your own history, your own background, and your own personal thoughts and ideas.
This really
Now we've
sounds like the
shown you the
Socratic
difference.
method, but okay.
Yeah, but it's the difference between teaching people that it's the difference between, this is what I believe versus this is what I have been able to
Yeah.
prove. Therefore,
If you
this is
haven't,
truth. This is a belief.
if you haven't taken freshman psychology or philosophy in college, here we go.
Well, it's like Benny Hill taught me one of the bases that I know is that, remember what he did, one of his skits where he did assume, and he wrote ASSUME, and he says,
Yep.
never assume because you make an ass out of you and me. I remember that from Benny Hill, and you would never think you would learn something from that,
Yeah.
but I did, and it's true. Don't assume because you make an ass out of you and me.
Benny Hill.
Always look at what it is.
That's still, 'cause it's warm. Benny Hill's a very tragic, hilarious story. Not the tragedy part. That's not hilarious. A hilarious story that ends in tragedy. But you're right, because the beauty of his show, besides the beautiful women, yes, but the beauty of his show is it's multi-tiered comedy.
Oh yeah.
It's not just slapstick. It's not just, there's double entendre. There's, music. There's deep philosophical stuff, along with violent slapstick and all the fun.
The beauty about it was intellectual comedy.
Excuse me.
If you got it, you
Excuse
got
me
it.
again.
And if you didn't get it, you learned it, which I loved about the Benny Hill show. And a lot of people thought it was sexist.
Mm.
You know, they
It's
look at that and
degrading
they
with
see the
women. Well, he
girls, then they go
degrades
that.
everybody.
And the girls, well, Benny Hill was smart because he did that to draw your attention to make a point, and he wanted to see if you were smart enough to catch it. Because it wasn't always about the girls. You had to look at his response and the other person's response. Because Benny Hill wasn't always the lecherous one. Somebody else was playing the lecherous, or if he was a lecherous, how they handled him. So it was a moral tale of if you did this, something would happen.
Cause and
So
effect.
the women there, the running around and stuff, was
Smacking him.
just yeah, was just a plot. So it wasn't about the women scantily clad women in there. They just did you to draw you into the show. But he was smart, brilliant comedian. When you really look at it and you look at on it, and I learned so much from him in a not overtly,
Well,
covertly, learned a lot from him.
yeah. Unless you were an avid fan of PBS or had English friends like I did, your knowledge of Benny Hill isn't going to come later until YouTube and the internet really gets going with videos and stuff like that because there just wasn't that platform of cross uh, cultural availability. It just wasn't available. I mean, okay, PBS on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, usually at nighttime, you would see Blackadder, Are You Being Served, Faulty Towers, Chef, Mr. Bean. Did I say Mr. Bean already?
Mr. Bean.
I hope not.
Yeah, Mr. Bean was on there.
Monty Python, of course.
Doctor Who.
Doctor, well, that's not a comedy, but okay.
But we're talking PBS. We're talking
Yeah.
about what you
But
would
you were
see.
saying Benny Hill, so it's like those were the comedies that we were exposed to. I didn't find out about Dad's Army until about 10 years ago. And then Paul said Dad's Army in England, popularity level, the two shows have absolutely nothing. The plots are completely different and set in different time periods, 40 years apart. And Cheers for America, the time period, it's the same level of popularity. Dad's Army was the number one show, Cheers was the number one show, or it's like saying Love Boat, Dad's Army, or so or Dallas. I should probably do Dallas since Who Shot JR was a media sensation. So, I mean, you don't really learn a lot about the deeper English stuff unless you have the internet later. Or you had people who came over who had physical copies of stuff and made copies for other people. That's how I learned about the Goon Show from Mark Firestone in the early 90s.
Or you sought it out.
Well,
You were lucky
yeah.
to sought it out. You had to find it.
But I had to
because
be introduced to it first.
Well, is in our era, in Bill, you can attest to this, is that we lived in an era that we challenged the status quo, and we looked for different type of media and whatever we liked and so forth. So if you knew about Dr. Demento, you were in the know. Not everybody knew about Dr. Demento. We knew about Dr. Demento. We knew about Doctor Who. We knew about Benny Hill. And it wasn't mainstream until later when it became into the zeitgeist. But we knew and appreciated Benny Hill for what it was because I was watching it in my teens, early teens.
Yeah.
We found out and stumbled across Benny Hill and we loved the show and watched it. And it was more for an adult audience, but for kids could understand our age on it, a coming of age. But it moved the status quo and gave us questions to answers that we had at the time, or it gave us ideas of how to deal with certain things because it was way ahead of its time when it was being broadcast. If you really think on some of the subject matter it was covering.
Yeah. Some of the stuff, it was like, whoa, that's super offensive nowadays.
And nowadays, but people look at it offensively, but they don't look at it objectively. What is it trying to convey? It's again going back to the truth statement. People don't like the truth because it affects them. People don't want to be truthful about themselves. So they project themselves onto other people. So the offensive people like nowadays, like Benny Hill would be offensive to them. Why is it offensive to them when it's not taking no offense? It's just showing a scenario. None of these women or anybody is getting hurt.
Yeah.
This is just showing an example of something would happen. Then they will call it misogynist. They will take it out of context. That's the thing. It's taken out of context. So anything could be taken out of context if you want to take it out of context. But
I'm trying to remember. I was showing Tanner, the guy I work with who's 22. I show him trailers from before he was born.
yep.
And one of his comments was, "Oh my God, this trailer is so ultra violent. How 1980s." I couldn't stop laughing for like 2 minutes. It's like, yeah, it was a violent time, dude. We were tough. They're gonna nuke us at any minute. The Russians have the finger on the button, man. That's all people talked about.
Mm-hmm.
You
It's the
became immune
it's the
to
era that we grew up in.
Yeah.
It's the era we grew up in, how we grew up.
Yeah.
Like for example, you wouldn't get a lot of the work, a lot of the TV shows, a lot of the great work we have now if it wasn't for the stuff that happened in the 80s. So the Thanos thing, all these superheroes, these stories were not written modern era. These were written back in the 70s, the 80s, and early 90s.
No, no.
Thanos is a product of the 80s and 90s, not of the 2000s or newer.
Or the
So all of
70s
the
or earlier.
70s, Iron Man 70s, early. So all the ones that they're consuming right now, people forget that these are not modern stories. These are stories that were taken back then. So everything that our generation is that they put up, Superman was the generation before us, was the baby boomers, was the silent generation. Superman was not our superhero,
No.
but we,
You got to
but
remember
we,
too. Oh, sorry, guy.
Go, guy.
no.
Continue your soapbox rant.
Well, but it is because that's his point of reference. Is it?
What's going on, Squidget?
Bridget.
Sorry. Cat.
That's his point of reference with it. So that's how he sees it.
Yeah.
So those commercials to him are violent because the commercials now are so subdued. They're so, how can I say, melancholy, or they don't want to offend anybody that they don't say anything.
Hmm.
If you look at really commercials right now, who are they selling to and for, and what is the actual message? Like my candy bar. Okay, that's the extent of it.
It's it's interesting how okay, dads on TV of the 50s. Courtship of Eddie's father, My Three Sons. Help me out here. Because the 60s we get into uh,
the Brady Bunch.
nah, it's not till the 70s, and even before the
70s, the
Brady
Brady Bunch.
Bunch, there's the other one
I
with
Dream of
Bill
Genie.
with
One of
Bill
you has
Bixby. I
any
Dream of Genie doesn't have any dads in it.
children in
Just
it. Yeah, doesn't have any. That's
no dads in that movie whatsoever or show whatsoever. Because the
yeah.
90s dads are well, 80s dads are well now. If we had known then what we know now, but
Mhm.
Bill Cosby is a major dad from the 80s. Whether you want to, he was the Cosby Show was a #1 hit. I'm trying to think of other dads on TV besides like
Full House.
Silver Spoon, Full House.
Mhm.
What's the Too Close for Comfort? Then there's
Different Strokes.
Different Strokes is a big one. Different Strokes is a big one because it's the first interracial family on
Family.
TV. And it's one of those. Different Strokes is the first one that it's just normal life. No, everyone's going to pretend that this is just normal. And it isn't until later episodes that, like the one where Arnold renames himself Abubakar to get into his African roots and all this other, and then they end up. It's like it doesn't matter what color you are. We're family. And that's the main message. But that's the message through the whole thing, which really is great because it counteracts um, Mr. Jefferson, and Archie Bunker, and these like super racist dads from the 70s that they're not that far from how men really are that were born in the 40s and lived through World War II, and they are now in the 70s and the 80s, and they're jaded and they're old. Where Bill Cosby's dads of the 80s and Married with Children, Al Bundy, these dads take more of a, this is my fault, I'm going to fix it. But Bill Cosby becomes a success, Dr. Huxtable, whereas Al Bundy kind of constantly laments his suffering, which just compounds your suffering in the long run. If you run around, woe is me, well, honey, that's all your life is going to be. And on top of that, you have Homer Simpson. So now we're back to the idiot father symbol that, we totally forgot Howard Cunningham, or Mr. Cunningham.
Mr. Cunningham, yeah.
Because Mr. Cunningham is a major dad all through the 80s. How could we forget Mr. C?
The Simpsons stole a lot from Married with Children because that's where that stereotype of the bumbling dad comes from. Because first came
Al.
Married with Children,
and then
Al.
Came Homer.
Then the Simpsons came after that, real close to that generation. And from Homer, you get Family. Everything's a derivative of Homer Simpson.
Ooh, Guy, thank you for opening this Pandora's box. Let's go one step further. Homer, Homer in his basic personality is closer to a Shaggy and Scooby type of character, where he's a moron and a little bit of a coward, but he's up. He's optimistic. He's positive in what he does. I mean, Homer makes a whole lot of mistakes. He's a terrible role model. He's a pretty awful father, but generally he wants the best for his family before himself. Yeah, he gets distracted with the Canyon Arrow, and we could sit here all night and make up and then there's this and that and that. And yeah, okay. But for the most part, he's willing to sacrifice everything for Marge and the kids. I have set this to do not give me an war. Anyway, you guys can't see it until afterwards. Anyway, so hold on. Let me get back on the track.
No, good.
Whereas you get the next iterations of dads in the 90s are more likened to like the dad on Alf, or more like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where the father is such a professional, and more like Ricky Schroeder's dad on Silver Spoons, where he's wealthy and he's always gone and he's frequent, he's missing a lot of the time because of work, because of the successful career. So it's interesting now that you've kind of gone back to dads are morons, and you're seeing a lot more of that in commercials. Like if you turn on YouTube and you can't afford to pay for it, and you have to suffer through the commercials, we're back to dads. We're back to everybody being, I don't know if he's national, but locally there's the Toyota guy. What's his name? Pat. Well, hey, it's Pat, and I came to tell you about Toyota. And the dude's a blithering idiot. The character, not the actor. The actor is intelligent, obviously.
Actually, now, more commercials are done without a dad. Because if you really, I always like two dads are one thing, but no, this is more prevalent. Once you see this, once I say this, you can't unsee it. Is that you find a lot of things with single moms. There's a lot of commercials when you really look at it and you go, huh? There's no dad in the picture whatsoever. I'll give you an example. Have you seen this commercial where the kid's going, Mom, I'm having trouble, and it's about tying the kid's shoe. We're going to loop it in, loop it out, and there's a commercial, right? There's no dad. It's just a single mother and the son. So there's no dad implied. There's nothing in there implied. The mom does it right here. It's a single mom. So I look at that, and I look at it and like, what are they really saying? There's no family. There's no structure. Nothing whatsoever. So when you start looking at commercials and you start looking at it, it's like a little microcosm. You look at it for what it is. Like, here's another one. And I was laughing with this commercial. Have you seen this Nissan commercial where the lady's at dinner and she's on a date with a guy and he goes, hey, how you doing, baby? And stuff on it. Ha, ha, ha. Well, I forgot my wallet at home. Sugar mama. and she gets in her Nissan and drives away and calls her friends. So she did a dinner and dash, left the guy with the bill, but that's a Nissan commercial. And I looked at it, I'm like, what is the commercial saying? Are they selling Nissans, or are they telling you to
To
dine
great
and dash?
society, yeah. You should
Great
steal.
society. And I look at it, yeah. So are they selling Nissans, or are they telling you to stick somebody with the bill because you didn't like what they were saying or what they're doing? She was on a date
I've seen.
and dined and dash. So there's a lot of commercials. You look at them, go, what are they really?
I've seen a lot of bad behavior esque commercials like you're talking about. Oh God, let's not
Yeah.
lend them power by talking to them. But the real reality is that if you've been alive for more than 30 or 40 years, you would have already known and realized that the single mother trope is not a new thing. What are you going to start with? Alice or One Day at a Time? What's next? Until she meets a very handsome fellow, Mrs. Brady is a show about a single mom. Here's a story of a lovely lady. She's the main character. You've already established that. Who was bringing up three very lovely girls. That means she hasn't. Mrs. Brady wasn't single for a short amount of time. If our narrative for the show starts off that she's raising three girls on her own until she meets Mr. Brady.
Look at Marcia. How old Marcia is? So they weren't married. They weren't married when she was young. They were married when Marcia was old.
When the show starts, I think Greg and Marcia
Yeah.
are both in the 6th grade.
Correct.
Cindy,
So that's when you.
Cindy and Bobby are supposed to be like 4 and 5. They're supposed to be like little, where Peter and Jan are supposed to be like preteens, like preteens, like 7, 8. But the narrative of the show insinuates that Mrs. Brady, before she was Mrs. Brady, was bringing up three very lovely girls. They don't really talk about the dad, nor do they talk about the mom for where the original Mrs. Brady is. I think Peter makes a comment that she passed away, if memory serves. Damn it, where's my sister Beth? She would know.
Hey, Bill, they're both widowers. They're both widowers.
Are they really?
They're both widowers.
Okay, I didn't know.
They're both.
My geek isn't that strong as guys with Brady's.
Because they didn't want to portray her as a single mother of divorce. So his wife died, husband died. They were already established families. Then they got together, so it was a blended family. But it wasn't through divorce or anything like that. They were both widowers.
Yeah, because
so that's how they got around it.
If you think about it in a sense, single motherhood is almost celebrated except for one factor of her, how she's raising her daughter in one of, and I believe correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comments, but I still believe that the original 1934, I'm talking about Christmas movies in April, but it's pertinent to the topic of single moms in movies and television shows, and that would be, what's her name? Natalie Wood's mom.
Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, Miracle on 34th Street. She leaves the husband and raises the daughter on her own. Dude, that's a major Christmas movie. That's like the biggest Christmas movie next to It's a Wonderful Life before you get your next batch of Christmas movies that really get big start with Santa Claus, where John Lithgow is the bad guy and Dudley Moore is one of Santa Claus's elves. And Santa is played by the mayor of Blazing Saddles. I'm sorry. I can't look at that movie the same. Oh, horse shit. Okay, everybody.
Did you notice something on Miracle 34th Street? That part wasn't emphasized, was kind of glossed over in the original one.
No.
But when you
look at watch it again, guy, no. She goes off on a rant about how much of her husband's an asshole.
Correct. But comparison, you didn't let me finish. Comparison to the other one, the newer one, they did in the 2000s, where she's a modern day woman, and it's even overemphasized. She goes on a rant on 34, but now she becomes a modern day woman in the newer one. So it's actually more emphasized and put right in front of you.
Yeah.
Because the other one she goes on a rant, and that's part of it, but they focus on the Natalie Wood character. So it is stated and it's shown.
Yeah.
But in the newer one, it is really forced upon you. So when you look at it,
Okay.
she doesn't need the husband. It's the modern day trope. It's a modern woman. I don't need no man. I'm independent. So when you watch the newer movie, you look at it and go, "Wow, this is different." It doesn't hit the same because it throws the dynamic off.
Okay.
When you watch,
Oh, hold on. You're opening more doors down the hallway of the ever-rolling bowl of shit and allowing it to flow into other rooms.
yeah, it's both the same movie, Miracle on 34th Street. It's just the interpretations between the two movies. All I'm talking about.
Wait, let's back up. Miracle on 34th Street, the original, is always going to be my favorite. Miracle on 34th Street with Matilda and there's something about that one because the cast is amazing, but it feels fantastically hollow. There's just like something missing from it. And I don't know what it is because all of those actors were amazingly talented and you love all of them and you can watch all of them again and again and again. But there just isn't the same kind of chemistry that there is in 1934. 1934 is brilliant because I think the impact of being institutionalized was way more prevalent in 1934 for Capra, but you're right in the sense that they drive across the movie. There's a lot more mention of the strong, I'm a strong woman, I don't need no man, but there's only one time in Miracle on 34th Street when, no, there's two because Santa asks, but it steers more towards Santa, the narrative. But when the lawyer asks her, she goes off on a rant how Prince Charming is really a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that being said, it's still a marker from the time period of single moms being accepted in our society and being looked at as, even though Santa is the main character, she and the daughter and the lawyer are pretty much the supporting characters, the main cast. Because he's, like all Christmas movies, they're about manipulation, and he's manipulating them so that they believe in Christmas and Santa again. Which is easy to do with a kid, but it's not exactly a simple task with an adult.
And that was Maureen O'Hara, 47, not 34.
Excuse me, 47, not 33. I stand
47.
corrected. Let's talk about
it was after
Maureen
the war.
O'Hara for
That's
a
why
couple
I
hours.
was thinking about it. Yeah, because that kind of brings back something I was going to allude to earlier. Is that we've been talking about this progression, but when you think about the generations that have been involved in those progressions, you had a 30-year break, an entire generation that grew up without any war. So if you think about it, you had World War II, then you had Korea, and then you had Vietnam. And then you had this long break until we got to
Grenada,
Desert
Beirut.
Shield, Desert Storm.
Well,
those
Grenada,
weren't wars.
Heartbreak Ridge.
Those weren't wars, Bill.
Those were
those
actions.
were actions. And they weren't even that. They were months. There were months of an event that took place. We're talking about
bad guys got their ass
years.
kicked.
But you have to think about it. World War II was essentially World War II was 5 years, because 1940 it began. It became a wild and raucous place. We got drawn into it. 41. Korea was 3 years, but we remained in Korea. Vietnam officially began for the United States in 64, but we were actually on the ground and doing live combat in 66, and that ran through till 75.
75.
So we have 72 was the end of conflict. 75 was the end of the fall. But then you have this entire time until 2001, when we have
Desert
another
Storm and Desert Shield and But
But
again,
again,
that didn't last long at all.
that
over
was
like
months.
yeah.
That was months long, as opposed to then we come to
We might be drafted.
the
I'm going to be drafted. That's it. I'm going to have to. What? Never mind.
so you had an entire generation that grew up in that time frame
Yeah.
where you didn't have. Now you had the people who lived through the previous that
And they
became.
scared the shit out of you about war. I mean, they literally, if
Well,
they
yeah,
didn't have the firsthand
and they
stories,
taught
they
you
had
about these
friends that
things.
had the firsthand stories. Oh my
So
God.
you have to think about how we, as we were being brought up, we were brought up by those. I mean, I was brought up by those who went through and faced World War II and Korea and Vietnam front line and learned all of that. My father was brought up by those who went through and faced World War One
One.
and
Yeah.
all of those actions. So when I was raising my children, my boys were being raised by somebody who had fortunately not been raised in a war, but taught about war by
Yeah.
those who had lived it. Then they're now raising their children, but they had to live through. My boys were born in the 90s. So as they entered their formative years, the Middle East was going wild. We were fighting in Afghanistan and all over the place. So they grew up in that same mindset, seeing this. This was on the news. This was something that happened. They understood, they knew it was going on. And now they're the ones that have to convey to their children, my grandchildren,
Yeah.
what it's like. We don't have a major conflagration going on right now that we're directly involved in. But now my grandchildren are aware of what's going on in Ukraine. But when you think about it, think about how that impacts these generations and how that shows in these programs. I mean, you spoke about this. We had in the 50s and the 60s, we were looking to television as the escape. So you wanted to have My Three Sons. I wanted to have, the courtship of Eddie's father. You wanted to have all of these things that pulled
Love
away from.
American Style and the Partridge Family. The Partridge Family. We forgot to talk about Mrs. Partridge. She's not only
In the
raising a family,
80s,
she's on the road doing shows with
oh
high-powered
yeah,
manager Reuben Kincaid.
in the 80s, we got to see things like we got to see the Vietnam television series. There was that
Yeah.
television series that
On
followed
PBS.
the replacement. Well, no, there was a regular television series that followed the nurses and special forces in Vietnam, and they had all these characters that went about. So in the 80s, there was a program like that. It was the Vietnam version of MASH.
Really?
We grew up watching MASH, which was Korea. We got to watch all of that. So as we went along, you didn't see as much of that, but you got to see Magnum PI.
Tons of
You
single
got to
moms
see,
on MASH.
you got to see Simon and Simon. We grew up watching those because these were the folks that were
Not
now the
standing.
fathers
Yeah.
who were, yeah, these were the guys and gals that went through the last big conflagration
And
and were teaching and moving forward.
that makes sense because the A team was hugely successful because the A team hit three paradigms of three groups of people. You got people who were fans of the individual actors who were all famous. Everybody on the A team, all four of them were famous. Mr. T, Benedict,
Dirk Benedict.
Dirk, thank you. Fucking Starbog. Sorry. But on A team, he's Face. They only ever
Yep.
called him Face. They never called him by his name. They called him by his job because that's what he was. And then Murdoch and Hannibal, and all of those actors were popular. It also hit the I love super violence shows where people are getting shot and they're screaming and explosions, and it hit all of the people who just weren't that. There's three kinds of people that are in the service through varying times, and especially through our time where most of them were drafted. Later in our generation, it's why are you going in the service? Money for school. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I can't argue with that. where before we're the children of Vietnam. Well, your dad is older, but Guy and I are the children of the men who went to Vietnam. And don't go in the whatever you do, stay out of the army. Do not go in the Air Force is okay. Don't go in the Navy. Do not go into the Marines. So that was kind of, but they had a Vietnam experience, which was, it's interesting in America that you have the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II. And in all of these eras, it's a "Go America" kind of across the board. And it isn't until Vietnam where the soldiers get off the planes and trains and automobiles and boats and you scumbag, you baby killer, you murderer, and
It was the visibility that came with it. That was one of the biggest changes. Was in Korea, you had the beginnings of television being able to show certain aspects of it, but you didn't embed anybody into a forward unit. If there was a member of the press corps, they were a soldier first. They were a member of the military press corps who was embedded. In Vietnam, there was a distinct change in that mindset. Okay, we can go ahead and seek to embed civilians into these teams and let them show what's happening. That was the biggest change.
I want to expand on that too, because it's threefold. It's not just how you said it and what, like my dad and Ed and so many others getting off the plane, and it's the super left beatnik generation that really gets a foothold in not just the beatnik movie with like Maynard Krebs and characters like that, but also like with the hippie movement. Because like even George Harrison said that he thought San Francisco was going to be like an ashram in India, where it was going to be this collection of ideas and inspired minds. And he gets to San Francisco and he's disgusted. These are just begging dirty hippies that are on heroin and they're drunk, and there's no ideas being made here. There's no philosophy. There's no structure. There's no. I'm leaving. I'm going back to England, basically. So I think it's the same kind of thing where I should put it like this: the negative part of the grassroots movement really took hold because morons love strength in numbers, and lazy morons love strength in numbers even more. They'll jump on that stuff because they got nothing better to do. And now, what? We're going to go yell at people? Okay.
Well, the truth, the big T truth, was made visible in Vietnam like it had never been made visible before. There were things that took place in Korea. There were things that took place. My father used to tell me tales about events that he saw, and he was in the Belgian Congo. He was in during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He came in and became active duty after the conflict in Korea had gone its course. And we're still technically at war with Korea. We're in a truce. That's the difference. But he had gone through and seen a lot of these things that never got publicized, that never got spoken about until decades later. The difference came in that it was always fun during Korea. It was still being fun the same as it was during World War II. Okay, the United States is in on this. We all got to get behind it. There were people that didn't want to be there, but you didn't have the same openly overt things that you could show. You could say, look at the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
People didn't know what was happening. In Vietnam, it became visible. You could see on Friday night, Wednesday night, you could be sitting there and here's live action
list of
a 19-year-old kid. Well, not just that. Here's live action of a 19-year-old kid shooting somebody, and you get to see them killing somebody in the jungle, taking a life. This is not a motion picture. This is real life.
TV.
And these kids are killing people, and our kids are being killed in this same place. And things were coming out much faster. We were finding out about atrocities that were being done in the name of the United States in some of these areas where some of these guys were just they were in their element there.
Yeah.
Some of these guys would be the ones that today the psychiatrists and psychologists would be going, you need to go sit over here with
we're not.
this kid because I'm not going to let you through this door. I'm not going to give you a rifle because I need to send you over someplace else.
Yeah. You're 4F.
Going with
Thanks
Rob,
for coming.
going with Rob said, they were televising the monks that was lighting themselves on fire for protests of the war. And I've seen the footage. It's horrific, but it is actual footage on it. And just to put it into context, because me and my dad don't talk about the Vietnam War too much or whatever. I don't want to dig into that one. But I'm just going to go say this, and that'll be it for that point, is that we were watching Black Hawk Down. And this is the only thing I ever heard from him. I heard stories that he told, but they're vanilla. I know he's holding back a lot of detail. And I remember the part where they're getting shot at. And all my dad said, yeah, that looks about right. And a chill came over my bones. Because when I looked at him, it was like he was somewhere else. And that's all he said. That looks about right. And I was watching Black Hawk Down. I looked at him and then I understood it without saying it. I understood that this was a little flashback moment or whatever of what he's seen.
No,
so
I asked my dad the same thing. What's it like to be shot at when you're at war? He said, the first time you nearly shit your pants. But after about a week, you're like, I'm right here. Fuck you. You suck. He's, okay. I could see you doing that. This guy's, get out of here. Quit now because you're terrible.
If well, like going back to Rob said, and what you don't realize,
sorry, we went off in a very dark.
It affected the culture so much that it changed the topic and brought in the anti-hero. People don't realize that a lot of the media that we have now, look at Rambo in the 80s, the Punisher, he's a Vietnam War veteran. Sergeant Rock, Vietnam War veteran. In the media, you go with, the A-Team, Vietnam War, Simon and Simon, Magnum, Vietnam War. So they were all coming back. And if you look at it, that was prevalent during that time. So a lot of the story underlines dealt with the trauma of Vietnam War or the ramifications after it.
Yeah.
So when you look at Rambo was written right after the Vietnam War. So everything that Rambo was going through in his flashbacks and his PTSD wasn't talked about, wasn't addressed.
Shell shock.
Until people saw the movie and went, oh, wait a minute, these guys are suffering.
I'm going to be nicer to Steve at work and not go boom every time I see him.
Yeah. So back then, a lot of people didn't talk about it. A lot of people just accepted it and went on or just ignored it.
They buried it.
So
with
you got that
comedy. It's how you got through it.
Yeah, they buried it. But you saw that narrative.
Yeah. Here's another aspect too. We're talking about since 1903, since the McKinley era, because McKinley's cabinet is the first when McKinley himself, because McKinley is our last president. McKinley dies and TR, Teddy Roosevelt, gets placed on the throne. So McKinley is also what Baum used for the Wizard of Oz. He's the wizard. Because McKinley is a teenager during the Civil War, and he's in some really fucked up battles. So after the war, McKinley becomes a very successful businessman, and he understands how the corporate world works. He's the first one to hire a secretary for his part of the cabinet, and he is the very first president to run the Oval Office. Well, he's the first Republican to do this as well, as a business, not just a government. So he doesn't allow the press to just happen upon the stories. He has someone in charge of prepping material to hand to newspapers across the country, and that's how he handles publicity. He's also a very hands-on president for the time, because you've got the Spanish-American War building, because McKinley understands that, because especially because he has Teddy Roosevelt as his Secretary of the Navy, that the in the early 1900s, our Navy needs a major overhaul. A major overhaul. Like, we have maybe 3 steel ships, where everyone else has tons of steel ships, and the rest of our ships are made out of wood. So if anybody attacks us, we're fucked, because we won't be able to hold our shores, because we just don't have the firepower. Sorry, Squidget, you're in the middle of one of my rants. She's 17. She has a mass in her pancreas. Some days she's extra cuddly. So sorry about all the cat butt shots in this night's episode. Episode 18, cat butts. So
Right. This is only purrs.
yeah. So you have this thing where only up until Nixon do you have a total turnaround where McKinley worked with the press. Teddy Roosevelt adored the press because he's a crazy he's one of my favorite presidents besides Washington, but he's also a crazy narcissist. He's an egomaniac, and that kind of fueled a lot of his, much like George Washington. It made him very brave, but it also made him very reckless, and he made great decisions, but he also made some very terrible ones as well. So that being said, we can move past that. So it isn't up until Nixon where my dad said it best, is Nixon's biggest problem was his ego. He wanted to run the country out of the Oval Office with just him and Agnew. He didn't want to deal with Congress or the Senate. And he like so many others, like Wilson, and so he thought the press were morons and beneath him. So why should I have to cooperate with them? What Nixon didn't count on was the already building popularity of Walter Cronkite. And that was another thing that amplifies all that both of you have said about how the Vietnam War was televised. And it wasn't a, here we are, America, fighting the Kaiser, or fighting Hitler and the Nazis. It wasn't geared towards, go America. With Cronkite, it was, here's what's happening. Isn't this terrible?
Exactly.
Here's what's happening.
Well,
God, this is awful. I'm going to cry.
You realize that same paradigm that you're talking about right now, that you ranted about, it's happening right now, but to a different degree.
To a different degree.
And I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about news media. Because right now, the news is not done by the news media. It's done by influencers, people on YouTube. People are different. So the new kids say the meta has shifted. So what you see now is that people don't always trust the main media.
You shouldn't.
And with it, they take it with a grain of salt. They don't always trust what they have. So they look for alternative media. Regardless of who the president is, this is what the new norm is now, that people get their information from different sources and different venues. So you used to have the big 3, ABC, NBC, CBS, and the news stations with their news anchors. Now you don't have that anymore, because people are getting news right away before the news comes out. And a lot of people, you've seen the videos where they showed the one screen over and over again about the news answers saying that we don't do this, and it's all repetitive, all exactly the same, all in unison.
They're all reading the same script.
The same script. So that right there showed that they're in unison together, means it's pre-programmed on it. So a lot of people look right now, the same that back then is happening right now, just a different thing. Everybody gets their news media from the web, because there's always going to be somebody with a camera or something on it that it's going to break the news out before the news media gets it, and you're going to hear it on your phone. So right now, how people absorb information is different. Now, the bad part about this is too, just like back then, misinformation and information can go out just as fast, if not faster now. So a lot of people got to look at what's being said and how it's being said, whether it's not it's true or false or whatever. Because even now, people don't accept it. Because going back to like April 1st, when and just brain when he died, a lot of people thought that was an April Fool's joke.
What, Val Kilmer?
Val Kilmer, yeah, because it was on April 1st. So a lot of people, even that, oh, he died, was April Fools. So they were already trained not to accept for face value, which tells me that a lot of people are skeptical on what type of news is right now and what is type of received and where they get it from. So you see that paradigm shift happening right
Oh,
now,
well, yeah.
and how people.
Here's the real cold hard reality also is that since the dawn of television, the big three have been for hire. And this is prevalent in all of the old television shows and especially kid shows. And this is just my father talking for working for NBC for Phoenix for the local affiliate for 37 years multiple times. You wouldn't believe what didn't make the news today. And he would just leave it at that. It's like there's no more ominous statement at hearing that at 5 o'clock in the evening at the dinner table, or 5:30 when he got home, whenever it was. But I mean, that's the reality of. Oh, here's a perfect example. I got in a big argument with Paul's widow, Kathy, like 6 years ago, and she was like yelling at me. She was all upset because NPR is for hire. They say what their sponsors want them to say. That's not true. It's honest news. No. Yes, that's, and back and forth. And it got heated. And at one point I looked at her, I'm like, Kathy, are there commercials on NPR? Yes. Then that's who decides what the news goes out and what's said, even on PBS, NPR. I'm just as upset about this as you are. It's just that I know this for growing up because we talked about this also. I made Scarizona in 2015, and Alan and Tracy paid to have, a news. They had the Channel 12 come down, or what, Channel 3, whatever. 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call, and I already have actors in makeup, lights set up. We're ready to go. Sorry, we're not coming. There's been another news story. So I go out there and I tell them, sorry, the news isn't coming. Everybody can go home. Also, I'm only going to be able to pay you for like an hour because they're not coming now. And the cast flipped out and the makeup artist. And it's like, guys, this is the news. Something else, somewhere else happened. So we get put on the back burner. This happens every day all across the country, probably all across the world. Guess
Well,
what? Guess what the other thing was? I think I told you guys in another episode. It was the shooting up at Flagstaff at the
oh, okay, damn it.
dormitories. So
Well,
yeah, we're
the,
not as important as a shooting.
well, to make your point even known, and where I learned it earlier is I would spend summers in Mexico. So it gave me a great opportunity to see that when you're in another country, you see things differently. And I remember being in Mexico, and we had the television shows that were in El Paso, but in Chihuahua also too, we would have the news there too. So when an event happened on the border or happened in El Paso, I could see the American version of the story. Then I could see what the Spanish version of the story was. And the Spanish version was always much more truer than it was what they showed in the American side. And it'd be an event that happened in the border, happened in El Paso, happened in Juarez or something like that. And we would look at it and we go, wow, we would see the difference in the news coverage because it was cut and pacified, let's say, on in El Paso.
Mm.
But when you looked at it in Juarez, they showed the shooting, the bodies. I mean, when they were doing the narcotics and stuff, and I was still out there when the Zetas were in Juarez, they were hanging people off of bridges, and I mean literally hanging people off of bridges. You will hear about it in El Paso. You got to see it in Juarez. You got to see it in the Mexican media. They didn't pull any punches,
But in
and it would be in
America,
the
we need to sugarcoat this. This is too real.
media. And it's the same thing, or they wouldn't say anything at all in that one. They would just leave it as a blip. Another mass shooting happened so and so here, and that would be the end of it. But then when we look at in the Mexico side, on their you would see it in the telenovela. You would see it basically in the uh, uh, what is it?
Universidad.
Noticias. Well, no, Univision wasn't as good because they had
Univision. That's
Noticias,
what it is. Sorry.
Noticias out of Mexico City, and that was more truthful. Univision, sometimes depending on Miami, was hit or miss sometimes. But you get Noticias Nacional out of Mexico and Chihuahua, well, they'll show it to you like it is. They'll have video and stuff on it, and they showed the assassination of what was it? Chief of police down in Juarez that barely made the news in El Paso, but it made a big thing in Juarez, and they showed the massacre. So I remember that for seeing that the news right there and how it was broadcast, the information that it was giving.
Let's not get too down and dirty and dark. We can also have an uplifting, wonderful thing. Mexico City had weather girl Yanette Garcia, which makes everything right because all she has to do is turn to the side, and I'm happy. This week's weather in Spanish, I have no idea what you're saying, but I'm hanging on.
No, you don't care. You just want to look
at her butt. Yes, I said it first. I follow her on Instagram.
But that's what you get with the dichotomy. A lot of things you get that with the dichotomy that you see and how you get information, how you look information, and information that comes out that sometimes people misunderstand it. Sometimes it comes out as a response to something else. You have different things that come out in media and so forth. Okay.
You want the brush.
Okay. Things that came out in the media that you never heard of. Okay. So in the media, influencers were a thing just because of media. It takes on a totally different information pre-internet versus after internet. Because before you were influencing, it was just you were influenced. After media, you're an influencer. You're trying to change culture.
Yeah.
Another one where it took off in the lexicon.
Hold on. Let's stay. Hold on, paper towels.
Let's matriculate a little bit on this.
Let's expound on this. But pre-internet, pre-1992 and on, to be the only equivalent of being an influencer would be to be like what was parodied in Saturday Night Live and became two movies, which would be Wayne's World, which would be you would have to have a public access television show and be on PBS at like 2 a.m. on Saturday morning or Sunday. And then that's the only way you could be any kind of like influencer or personality on television, because otherwise, that's why, oh my God, YouTube is actually the greatest thing ever. And old stupid Gen Xers like us are not taking advantage of it or grouping up, because we were just talking about it last episode. Back in the day, you would have to pay for all kinds of marketing and stuff like that. Not only, now it doesn't cost you a damn thing. Free Discord, free YouTube subscription for my channel, free Twitch, $7 used camera. The picture's great. You can't even tell the lava lamp's a lava lamp. It just is a pink blob in the background. But, and then there's all the blur. But other than that, it's a podcast. We're talking more than you're looking at my ugly mug. So that kind of works out. Not only the way the algorithm works, it took me a while to understand it, and I'm still learning, but really, the bigger the audience, the better the catch. Because more people are going to want to see your take on something that they already know all about. But I want to hear what you have to say. And that's the same as going to a convention and sitting there and going, you have an Iron Man shirt on. I love Iron Man. Which suit is your favorite? Well, yeah, it's there's nothing different in that except you're not face to face in the physical sense. We're talking about Spider-Man.
you know what the internet also has done? Uncovered,
It's brought us
uncovered.
so much porn, and we need to be thankful for that.
Well, yeah, no, but what I was mentioning is it uncovered uncomfortable truths. Because to some people, when you look at, especially with TikTok, you look at how people think, and they call it TikTok rot and so forth of it. People air out, and if you let them talk enough, you find out who they are. When you look at TikTok and you look at some of the stuff, uncomfortable truths about themselves, and they don't realize they're spilling the beans on themselves on it. You know how many criminals are showing up, flashing their guns and what they show, and going, "Look at me, hey, 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 look at me,"
Here's where
and
I
got busted.
am.
Here's where I am. Look
Here's
what I
where I
did.
am. Watch how
They're
stupid I
doing.
am. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know Johnny Somalia?
That
Have you heard
guy
the
is
name?
a tool bag. Yeah, I only know about him because of, and again, not in collaboration. I just am a big fan of their uh, decoy voice, liberal hive mind, and walk don't run. No, or is it run don't walk?
Yeah.
Walk don't run. All of those channels, I'm a pretty big fan, and I
But
know
but
about them. But he's, dude, that's jackass on the level of. It's not even smart pranks like Jamie Kennedy and the "You've Been X'd," which was very popular a little while ago, and now he's not doing as many. Sorry, guy,
but
go
it's
ahead.
all done for clout. It's all done for clout,
Yeah,
and it's all it and he's going to jail.
good.
Look what it's bringing to him because he's run out of money and stuff. So what I mean is, it brought out an arrogance and an irresponsibility for the platform that you get a lot of people to come out and they air their arrogance and they also air, how can I say,
Their stupidity.
their criminality, their stupidity. So when you look at it, it brings a lot of things to the top, like terminology. Okay,
Yeah,
we hear about misogyny. Okay, that was always there, but we hear it now, and it's a term that's used. Narcissism is used and been taken out of context.
well,
You hear about the manosphere. You hear about different stuff with feminism. You hear all these different rhetoric that's done on the internet, and that's because of the internet allowing stepping stones for other people to talk, other people to share ideas, and other people to talk about similar
yeah.
outcomes and stories that
And
happen.
Tyson said it best, though. The internet has made a lot of people brave because they don't get punched in the mouth. And it's not
Without,
only the salami guy who I hope he rots. What is he in a Korean or Japanese prison? I watched the episode where they were talking shit, and I think what's his name, the Penguin guy, the Moist Army. I watch his videos too. He's pretty funny. Even the Asmongold guy was talking shit about him. I think I watch so many of them. I try to keep up because I'm so behind on. But you're right. That's our news now because you'll hear the story, you'll watch it on a main news, and then you'll watch one of your YouTube personalities, and you're like, okay, no, I kind of agree. That's how I would, review this as well. That this guy's a tool bag, and this goes back to him and the one dude that does the baby voice, and he got his ass kicked in Home Depot because he was like
oh
talking
yeah, yeah, the
through.
one guy.
I can't remember his name, and he tries to use Spanish like he doesn't speak English, and some big construction worker dude let him have it, and it's like, what are you doing? Home Depot is the last place you should be messing with people. Those guys are not only all stressed out, most of them swing hammers for 10 hours a day. They're not dudes you want to fuck with. Don't fight construction workers. You learn that right out of high school because you get your ass kicked by a bunch of construction workers and you learn, oh, that was a bad idea.
Correct. It's all done for clout and all done for
Oh,
different stuff with it. So you get a lot of things that are said,
wait.
and you get a lot of people acting a fool.
Yeah, who's the dude that shot the dude? It was all over the internet a little while ago. Uber driver is going to go deliver food. He picks up food, and some much bigger guy, the dude's like 6'2", comes up to him and starts harassing him with his phone. And the Uber delivery guy's like, "Dude, leave me alone. Go away. I don't know what you're talking about." And the guy won't leave him alone, and he's on top of him, like in his personal space. So Uber delivery food driver pulls out a gun and shoots the guy in the stomach a couple times. Sorry, totally justified. Why are you harassing people at the food court in the mall?
Well, it's like the kid that got shot that was slapping hats off of people's heads, and he was physically assaulting the other people, thinking it was funny, would push him, and the one guy came out and clocked him.
Oh yeah,
And
what the hell are you doing? Yeah, he slapped him like a bitch. Yeah, dude, why are you hassling that guy in the gym?
Leave him alone. So what happens is you get a lot of people that want their 15 minutes of fame or infamous fame, and that's what a lot of people come up to and do it. So that's what they call a TikTok brain. Is you have this wonderful tool like YouTube and stuff on it, but they don't use it responsibly.
No,
they don't use it responsibly. They use it to get clout and so forth. It's like remember, you always have these TikTok stuff that happen, and you remember the time where they were taking ice cream and licking the ice cream and putting them back into the things. It was a TikTok
yeah,
thing. They were going around the Walmarts and grocery stores and smashing the milk and acting like they were slipping on it. And they were filming themselves. They would take the bikes off of the Walmart rack and ride them around the store and do crazy stuff and knock things over. This is basically destructive things that they're filming themselves,
these are
being
crimes,
liable
and you're
for.
watching me do crime because I'm not smart enough to realize I'm filming my own crime.
Yeah. So that's the bad thing about it is sometimes this internet stuff for little-minded people or people who are not well educated, or how can I say, understand that sometimes it plays to their narcissistic tendencies or their psychotic tendencies, and they tend to show out who they truly are. Because you look at it and you look at even people's comments, you go out and go, "Ooh, something's not right about this guy here. Something's not right about her."
We're having a very dark episode, viewers. Thank you for watching
What?
and following along.
But is it really dark, or is it
It is dark.
revealing?
It's dark because you're revealing the cold banality of life in the aspect of, okay, let's take a 22-year-old who has large breasts and is very attractive. Everything she does, at least 40,000 guys are going to like it and watch it and subscribe and things like that. Now, not based on my judgment of beauty and standards, but based on the beauty and judgment standards of YouTube and the internet and Facebook and TikTok and all of these other social media types. Women that are maybe viewed as not as attractive of her have to go through extreme measures, and they end up pissing off a whole lot of innocent bystanders for dancing and posing or getting on statues that break and all this other stuff, where your average dude is not attractive. We're guys, we're supposed to be big and strong and awesome, so attractive isn't really in the main frame of our, you need to be rich or you need to be built. That's how it goes. So guys, lesser males have to resort to extreme stupid behavior in order to get the attention of females.
You're talking about the OnlyFans paradox.
It's OnlyFans now, but in the 1980s it was building an obscene ramp and jumping your bike off of it to impress Stephanie that lived in the neighborhood.
Well, yes,
Stephanie never
yes,
shows
and no,
up, dude. She never shows
but
up.
but the paradigm has shifted again, and it's different. This is different talking points right here. The OnlyFans paradox is this: is that you have women now that seek validation and stuff on it, so they join OnlyFans. This is the stereotype. So you have a majority, maybe about 5% used to be on OnlyFans. Now it's getting closer to 10%. It's becoming more the norm. Well, what's happening as it becomes more and more girls go on to OnlyFans, what happens is there's such a negative connotation because it's a porn site. Even though people say it's not, you could use it for other stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the main operandi of it. So what happens is these OnlyFans girls are now going to be treated like porn stars, good or bad, because now due to the association. So what happened was they were trying to do a workaround the porn thing, saying, "Well, I'm not in the industry. I do OnlyFans." But now OnlyFans is now associated with the porn industry, so that workaround where they can keep their virtuousness has gone away. So what happens is they get a lot of money really quick, and it drops off precipitously. So what happens is these girls that were doing OnlyFans are now going to have a negative connotation as they go out later in years. Those chickens will come to roost and come to roost big time because of it. Same thing with the guys now. Everything has shifted. And before we used to do the crazy stuff to get man, we used to call them back in our day, Bill. They used to be PUAs,
What?
pickup artists.
Like the movie, like
PUA is a pickup artist.
Yeah,
A
everybody wanted to be
pickup artist.
this guy.
This is how you do. Everybody had the swag. Everybody had the way you come up and talk to a lady. It was a pickup artist.
Yeah. The
Now
problem,
you can't even do that. No.
no, the problem now is,
Mm.
you know, you don't know how well you are with the women until you get into your own microcosm, your tiny little, tiny, minuscule, microscopic sub group, which for me was Ren Fair when I started to actually succeed with the opposite sex. And it gives you a bit of confidence when you go out into the real world. But the problem with that is it doesn't transfer as the clock ticks on, nor does it transfer in the modern day because Guy, you didn't do fair, and Rob, actually, you guys didn't experience it, but being able to imitate an English accent or a Scottish accent or Welsh or Irish accent was highly prized in the Ren Fair community in the early 90s among the street actors that were local. Not so much the traveling Rennies. They kind of, I don't know, you had to try a little harder for those ladies. But Paul, being born and raised in East London, I mean, it was like easy for him to walk around, hello, love, and they would just be like, oh my God. So it's interesting that you need to be you at the right place at the right time, fitting in the right area. Because if you go to, like, I am useless at a cowboy bar or a sports bar. I got nothing to talk about the ladies there. Like, I don't know. Football has downs. Yeah, that's not going to go far. That's not. I don't know anything about sports. So it really depends on where you're at and who you are, I think.
You came up with the biggest thing with it is that's part of the PUA community and stuff on it, is that Paul knew the game and knew how to play it. Because he
Him
had
Tim.
basically both. Yeah, he had, because of what he did in the hierarchy, he was more sought after because he had the accent. So he had a form of social proofing.
That's
Women
a good way to
love that
look at
accent.
it.
Other
Yeah.
women would look. It's social proofing. So what happened was it made it more acceptable, made it easier for people to get on board. So with that was, back in the day, you could figure women out, would come up and so forth and do some stuff. So if you wanted to get that accent, you could learn that accent and pull the same thing like Paul did. So
Yeah.
a lot of people, when you looked at it, was back then. Now they try to transfer that to our modern day.
Yeah.
And what happened was the cat's out of the bag, the rabbit's out of the hat.
On my lap.
You can no longer fool people because everyone that, this is what I brought, the reason why I brought up PUA and some other stuff is that they went on and made classes about how to pick up the good, how women could pick up guys.
Yeah.
And all of that was put out onto the media, on social media, that everyone goes, oh, now I know the game. Oh, now I know what you're doing. And it no longer works because back then nobody knew the game but few. People who knew. People who didn't know, didn't know. Now everybody knows the game. So the dine and dash one about the commercial, about women using guys for eating, going on a date with them so they can get food, that jig is up. Women did that when we were dating, when we were going around. They were doing that to us. That game is over because everybody knows that game now. You know, all that stuff that happened then, all the secrets have been let out. So that's why it's different now dating,
Switch.
because because you coming up to a lady and going, you know what? Like, here's a line back in the 90s. Is,
Mm.
if if I told you your body was beautiful, would you hold it
Hold it
against
against
me?
me. Yeah.
Yeah. You
And
know that line. It's a cheesy
yeah,
line.
I think
That
that
won't work now.
that
People heard that line. People know about it.
the
It the cat's out of the bag.
it's bizarre. The future is bizarre. The way things have kind of changed. You figure that with the advent of the social network and social media, and because in the begin, you're right. You're yes, petting, yes, brushing squidgets, la la la, the time. Okay, that it. You would think that with the advent of social media would bring everybody together. That you would have this mass, you know. Oh yes, dear, brushing squidge. That the like minds and problems solved and things like that. But really, it's kind of quite the opposite, where a lot of times you have people working together, but most of the time it's just people screaming at one another. And I'm guilty of this too because I go into Facebook and antagonize people. But that neither here nor there. Where you're kind of right though. In the beginning, OnlyFans was more like MySpace or Instagram, and now it's a porn site. And
And the backlash is going to be huge on with those girls on it.
yeah,
And what happened in the ramifications, they don't see it yet. Give it another 10 years or something, because the internet's forever, and people will dig up. Imagine a girl on OnlyFans now that wants to become a U.S. senator.
mm,
That stuff cannot be scrubbed from the internet. That will never be scrubbed from the internet.
no,
So any of their future endeavors are now going to be hampered by the previous stuff in the past. And even though it wasn't porn, because it's association and what they did on it,
yeah,
whether clothed, unclothed, or whatever, just by the mention of it, you had an
you're
OnlyFans.
tainted. Yeah,
You're painted. So a lot of people don't understand that or don't respond to it. So when you look at it, is
why
that
is this still
you don't want to be labeled a criminal. So don't do anything that makes you look like a criminal.
Stella?
Yeah. So what happens is you get a lot of people that do stuff now and document it on the internet, that later on when they grow up,
They're
it's
gonna
going to come back
regret
to
that.
haunt them.
Yeah.
They're going to regret, and you're going to see the chickens are going to come to roost,
Mm.
and a lot of people are going to be haunted by their past. Look at Kim Kardashian. I'll give you a perfect example. Her sex tape. Her kids are getting bullied because of her sex tape she did over 20 years ago.
Yep. Hey, if you ever feel stupid during your day, just remember the Kim Kardashian entered a poker tournament with mirrored glasses.
Mirror glasses, yeah.
Guess what my cards are? I don't know, Kim.
But that's the downfall with social media sometimes, is that you kind of tell on yourself and you tell things about others, because it's like people air their problems out on social media when you really shouldn't.
Mm,
You air it out with regular people. Not everybody needs to know your problems. Not everything needs to be documented. But yet you could have hours and hours of people documenting stupid things, irrelevant things for it, that will bite somebody's butt later.
we're so good at
In
that.
you're going to see it happen, and you're going to see it happen more and more, because as more of these young kids document their stuff on TikTok, 20, 30 years, we'll be old men. We're not going to really care. We'll be older than now and don't care. And you're going to see them suffering because of it.
I again, I know I say again a lot, but
Mm.
you'd think that social media would bring people together on a much grander scale, but really it doesn't.
Mm.
Humans are fickle, and they only like certain things for certain amounts of time. And then there's large groups of them that are really into tradition. So it's hard to judge. where things are going as we spin around the center of the galaxy. How many
Well, you can
times?
kind of see where it's going to land, though. You can kind of see where it's going to land and how to predict. I mean, even Forbes, even a lot of the manufacturers, like here's a red pill thing that you hear. And I look at social media and I look what it is. It's a thermometer of everything. Is that they say, and this is Forbes, this is basically for institution that's telling people how to do their investments. They're saying 45 to 50% of women 18 to 30 go to be childless and unmarried. And I look at that and I went, Forbes and some other ones are saying this. So they recognize something's happening. So if they're childless and unmarried, they're telling you to buy different stocks. That's why you hear the joke about cat ladies and buying cat food and all that kind of stuff. But there's got to be some truth to it of what they see in the trends of what's happening. So social media, when you look at the barometer of what's happening, people are taking social media and using it as a barometer of what's going on in the world. Then they're taking it and looking at it and going, okay, where's society go? How's everybody think? How's everybody doing it? That's why, the OnlyFans theory came out and all different stuff of theories are coming out because the ramifications and stuff that's going to happen because of it, like Johnny Somali and so forth, can either increase or decrease over time. So OnlyFans may become a fad and in 5 years may, go bankrupt and go out and the problem's solved. You will have no other women going on OnlyFans because they went bankrupt and went out of business.
Yeah.
Or it becomes super popular and it becomes even worse than it is right now. One of the two is going to happen.
I think the latter, that it'll get super popular. Well, the problem is that what it has evolved into now is exactly what 60% of males are okay with. Sure, I'll give you money to see more.
Well, that gets me into what they called another term that was done by media, the simp economy.
Yes, it fuels so many
Fuels
things.
So you look at it, and like in our day and all stuff on it, I can't understand the simps and why they would do it. But this generation understands it for whatever reason. Is they fuel this economy. So they wouldn't be in OnlyFans if people weren't paying for the OnlyFans.
There you go.
So I look at that, okay, it's supply and demand.
It's supply and demand. There's a market for it.
There's a market for it. But what happens with it, as like with modern technology, instead of bringing people together, it puts it further apart. Because what happens is now it makes it the economy. Okay. These girls, the 5%ers, are getting rich off of OnlyFans. They're making money really quick, really fast. Okay. A 20-year-old is not disciplined enough with money sometimes to know what to do with money.
Yeah.
You got to spend it on a car. You got to spend it on clothes. You got to get an apartment. You got to go nuts. What's going to happen is, and somebody quoted it, I don't know who, it's fast money comes with slow problems. With slow problems.
Say it again. Sorry, I talked.
Oh, fast money comes with slow problems. So like a drug dealer, you make real quick money, but you got to get put in jail or you got to get shot and killed. Same thing with OnlyFans or a prostitute. You got to make money real quick off the bank, but you got to get an STD, you got to get beat up, you got to get killed. Fast money comes with slow problems. It may not happen right there, but something's going to happen down the road. It's accumulative. So what happens is these girls get a lot of money really up there here that they don't want to date the men, and they put them into such a thing where they hate men. It's like girls at a strip bar don't like men because men treat them as objects. Well, you made yourself an object to be on OnlyFans. You're objectifying yourself. So do you hate yourself? Because you can't blame the men because you're serving yourself up on a platter.
Yeah.
You see how it's a secular?
You created this self-fulfilling prophecy.
You created a self-fulfilling prophecy. And with self-fulfilling prophecies, it's going to come true because it's self-fulfilling. So these OnlyFans girls are going to have these huge, huge misrepresentation about men and what they look at. They're going to have their money value skewed, and they're going to put themselves out of the market. These simps are chasing something that's not there, that's never going to be there, and they're going to get disappointed really much when they find out they can't obtain it. Because a lot of the OnlyFans, the top percent of the OnlyFans, they're not running their accounts. People in other cities and stuff are running their accounts. So these people think they're talking to those girls. They're not.
No, they're talking
They're
to some
talking
guy in the Philippines.
some guy in who knows Bora Bora, who
Yeah,
knows
Bora
what.
Bora or Mumbai or any one of these other places.
So those guys are going to get pissed off when they find out they've been lied to, that
Yeah.
this woman never loved them, don't even know who he is, and they think they have a relation.
My favorite
So,
is they will make a fake Facebook profile. This happens to me about 5 times a day because my profile's been tagged and all the other stuff. And they don't understand exactly how American names work.
oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Stevens, Monica. Okay, no. Girls, unless they're military, they don't do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hi, handsome. I First of all, if you're asking me to send you a friend request, this is an AI dummy account because most people just send me a friend request.
Well,
Second
the
of
funny
all,
thing is,
hi, handsome. You can see my pictures, right?
the funny thing with that is, and what a lot of women are not going to realize is that you're going to have guys that are going to use AI, artificial women, and they already
Oh,
sneakingly done
yeah.
that. They've been doing it for 5 years, and open up their only OnlyFans to make money, and it won't be a real woman.
Mm.
It'll be a digitally woman that's basically made up on the web that you won't see it. So a lot of this stuff that you see, you project it, you look at it, it's a
It's
self-fulfilling prophecy.
it's not real.
It's not going to end well. It's not. It can't.
Nope. Oh
And
shit.
and people keep going and don't see it
Fire.
because I can keep I can keep going on and on. There's several self-fulfilling prophecies that are going to
Yeah.
happen if they keep doing it because
Yeah.
it's can't end any other way.
Well, the really scary. Okay, if society continues the way it is, even you've got Demolition Man or Blade Runner, Cherry 2000.
Mm.
You know, those are your options.
Well, actually, there could be a third option. It'd be neither one of them. Because at least those two were an ending and it was somewhat of a solution to something, a problem.
Maybe.
This here, it just goes into a self-destruction and a downward spiral. Because if you really lay the bricks down and put them all together and stuff on it, look look at what's happening with society and it's been, and we're not even talking political. I'm not even talking political. Is that birth rates are at the lowest part they have. And I was told about this, then I had to research and I go, really? Is it really? I didn't think it was that bad. Then I looked at it and went,
It's
oh
not
yeah,
good.
okay, it is. And you look at people not reproducing, people are not getting together. There's a gap between men and women, and women are becoming more liberal, men are becoming more conservative. They're choosing their sides and going up, whether it be political or not political. It has more to do than just that. The political can be a catalyst to it, but it's still of what society is doing. So going back to like the OnlyFans, I just use that as a microcosm. Is that you're
Yeah.
painting yourself into a corner that you can't get out of because you painted yourself into it. So the simps that are out there, what's going to happen with them is that they're not going to breed, they're not going to do anything on it. They're paying millions of dollars of money. They're not going to get back, and they're going to wake up mad because they were cheated. The OnlyFans girls are going to wake up single and alone. They're not going to marry or anything out because they priced themselves out of the market, and they're going to be cheated. What happens is in both turns, and I heard somebody say this, and I was applauding him. Smart individual I was talking in the chat room is they both lost their cards. The simps lost their man card. The girls lost their woman card because they both bargained and sold away what was most precious to them. The OnlyFans girls can't recover from it because emotionally it's going to take its toll, and you're going to get more women on antidepressants, antipsychotics, and stuff because of it because it's going to take a toll.
You're not wrong, guy.
And the men too, it's going to take a toll on them because it's the opposite reason. They're going to be manipulated, and they're going to manipulate it. It's going to create anger into them. So both of them are going to. It's you got to see it colliding because that's what's happening to it. We can see it because we're not from that generation. Phones, we can
Well,
live without phones. We can say screw that media, gone, gone,
yeah.
gone. We're the last generation that was had one leg on both sides, with or without it. We can live without the phone. We
And
can
we're
live without
totally
certain things.
attached to it, but we also can. Oh, no phone? Okay. I
Yeah.
noticed that, like, sitting in waiting rooms when I'm at a
Mhm.
job interview is unless you're 45 and up, You're glued to your phone. If you're 45 and up, you're actually looking at the other people in the room,
Mhm.
watching
And
them.
that point you point out means there's a lot of blind sides to a lot of younger generations because they can't see what's coming. They can't look at what's coming because their face is buried in their phone.
Yeah.
Their whole identity is
Is their
on the
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
Is their phone. So that's why you can't get them to talk to each other. You can't get them to negotiate. You can't get them to come together. So it brings people more apart because they're more isolated with their community.
The
You know,
isolation of
and,
the individual has progressed so since the 80s because you're in your own apartment and then you wake up and you go in your own car or you're on your own motorcycle or you ride the bus and you're listening to headphones or you're reading a book or a magazine or, well, newspapers are still around. I hope they last forever. We'll see. But then you're still in this bubble of isolation, like Office Space has pointed out, where you're existing in a cubicle and you become a number to a company, and then you repeat the process going home where you're in this isolated state, and then you go back home alone to a house or an apartment, or if you're lucky enough, you're into a sport or have a hobby that involves other humans, and then you can interact with them there. But well, my own personal experience. The ex-wife moved out in 2016, and I just kind of couldn't afford to go anywhere or do anything. So there was a lot of catching up on old movies that were free online and personal reflection and losing weight and because entertainment comes at a cost. It's a luxury item. It takes you time from something else. For the three of us to be here and for you, thank you, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. To watch our show and listen to us ramble incoherently about topics. But it's all cost. It's all we were talking about it. The cost of chores and the cost of doing certain things to get away with other things, and that includes work. I work my guts out, and it's still not the old adage that's on Facebook now is the same truth. If I work a whole bunch of overtime, I make $80 an hour. But if I'm on a regular 40-hour week and I miss one day and only turn in 32 hours, suddenly I'm down $200 for my paycheck if I don't have any PTO.
Mhm. Well, here's the big thing that you pointed out, Bill, is
Your
that
finger.
you made a big point, and you might have not realized it, is that people don't know the difference between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is basically when you figure out you're lonely. You can't be fine with yourself.
Mm,
You can't be alone with yourself. You don't have no other peers and stuff to talk
yeah.
to. Or solitude, you're
Solitude is
taking time.
highly addictive, on the other hand.
Solitude, you're fine with yourself, but you're growing. Like you said, you caught up on someone else. So loneliness is different than solitude because solitude, you're still working on yourself. You're still doing stuff. It's just you're not doing it with a crowd. You're self-reflecting, you're reading, you're exercising, bike, whatever that you're doing. So solitude sometimes is great.
Oh, yeah.
Loneliness is you have
Is
nobody
that can
to,
be devastating.
that could be devastating. And it's this terminology that people sometimes forget what it is. You know, the devil's in the details. So when you talk to a lot of people, and when you talk, I'll give you a perfect example on a TV show.
Sure.
I'll give you a perfect example. I was watching the Whatever podcast, and I
Mm-hmm.
made a comment, and it's the wording how people don't understand. The girls, when they ever rate them, when the guys ask them to rate them 1 to 10, and they always rate themselves a 10. But I said they're asking the wrong questions. Okay, because it's not beauty that they're rating themselves on. They're rating themselves on confidence because their answer is, I'm a confident person. I'm always confident. I'm 10.
Excuse
So
me.
what happens is they're mixing, just like solitude versus loneliness, the confidence versus beauty. To one person, you're a 1. To another person, you're a 10. And you rate yourself, you can rate yourself whatever you want.
Oh yeah.
But I can, like, say, honestly, I can be a confident 10. You're not going to blow my confidence out of the way.
Mm.
But in looks, I may be a 5. I'm average. 5,
Yeah.
6. I'm average. I'm in the middle of the
No,
spectrum. I'm
no,
not
no.
ugly,
Hold
but I'm
on.
not.
You're on to something here because for me, the onset of the internet on social media and the beginning of internet dating and that whole kind of aspect shows us it's a window into society. And we were going
Yep.
off. I was going off before about this on my other old man soapbox rant,
Mhm.
where the veil has dropped.
Yep.
If you go back and you watch a show from the late 80s and the 90s, with Chuck Woolery, the dating game, and you listen to all the women and what they look for in a man, because, well, that show came out before I was out of high school, and I looked at it as homework. I'm going to need to know these things. What do women want? Oh well, the things that were important then and the things that were important now have shifted a bit, but the saddest saying is true. The world that we grew up in doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
It's gone. And the hardest challenge is for us to. Generation X is one of those rare generations that's caught in between a major shift in
Mhm.
every category. Because we start out with 78 records and 8-track and Betamax, and we go all the way to Netflix and Disney Plus, and this is a huge jump to go
DVDs,
from. Well, no, to go
DVDs, Blu-ray, everything.
not just that. Let's talk about jumping from ViewMaster to Laserdisc, guy.
Yep.
ViewMaster. When's the last time you saw one?
Yep. Whew. A long time ago.
When you were around your nieces and nephews. Tell the truth.
Mhm. Yeah, the click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click, click.
Paul got a laser disc at one point. He bought it on the internet and he was all excited and losing his shit because, oh, I wanted one of these so bad when they came out. So then he was buying laser discs like crazy. Now you say the word laser disc to a. Just okay, Saturday I'm talking to Tanner and I used the word disc jockey and he didn't know what that was.
Yep.
And I say, "What are you talking about?" DJ. The DJ. He's like, DJ stands for disc jockey? I'm like, "Yeah, discs, records. What did you think it stood for?" He's like, "To be honest, I never knew and I never thought about it or looked at it. It was just hold on, let me turn off.
Yeah, people lost the meaning of certain words.
Sorry.
Look at ATM.
Yeah, Steam
Look
is
at
giving
ATM.
me announcements.
Yeah, well,
ATM.
look at
They don't know what
automatic.
ATM means.
They don't know what it means.
Most people don't know
And
that KFC stands for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And the biggest insult was Mad Men. There was a show,
oh,
Mad Men, and it was all on AMC. And they had John Hamm, I believe, is the star. He's a great actor. And they asked him what AMC stood for, and he said, "I don't know."
American Movie Classics, I think.
Or American Movie Channel in the very beginning, and it
American
turned
Movie.
into American Movie Classics.
Well,
But you get
they did
credit
have
for
American
knowing
Movie
that, guy. I mean, Jesus Christ. The guy who's fucking on the show doesn't know.
No, exactly. Yeah.
They don't know what VHS stands for or what it is unless they're almost 30. Think about that for a minute. In our
That's
generation, we went from 8mm to Betamax. Well, no, 8mm to quarter inch to quarter inch to Betamax to VHS to Laserdisc to DVD.
No, we had CD in between that too. Video CDs,
They don't
VCDs,
even
yeah.
understand that
And
CD stands for compact disc.
yeah.
They didn't know that LP meant long play. 33. What's 33? It's the fucking speed they have it. Oh, God. Because,
Well, the big thing you
oh,
hit
hold
on
on,
the
hold on. Hold on.
biggest thing about the curtain.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, I have a totally parallel rant. Go ahead.
Well, the curtain's been pulled back. That you see what people has missing. That everything has been exposed to a certain thing. Is whether or not people listen to it.
Mm.
So it's like everything has been exposed. Anything that you want to learn about, you can learn about. It's there. It just whether or not people are willing to do it.
It's just we're going to taint with society what you're interested in.
Mhm.
I asked Tanner Saturday night who Jimmy
Uh-huh.
Hoffa was, and he didn't have an answer. Because Tanner's like, I like talking to you because you tell me stuff that you learned in high school that I should have learned. And it's like, now you're out of high school and you're learning that two generations before you were taught because of critical race theory and
Yeah.
the core learning and all that. You've dumbed down learning to make us so stupid and subservient. It's even worse than it has been through the 1940s through the 1950s, where you've got this we don't want thinkers, we want workers kind of uh, idealist. The problem with that, people that want to control humanity don't really understand humanity on the base level. They understand the results of humanity and they make their diabolical world control plans that way. They base it on results, not on like actual human psychology and humanitarianism. So it's like, what do people really want? Well, that's actually a really big answer because it depends on the human. Some humans want to be left alone and they want a very simple existence. Some humans want to watch the world burn, and the ones in the middle want to control everything. So, which humans are we talking about?
Well, that's an interesting case study because you have several groups that have come out, and you have people are for one side, people for the other side, and people for no sides. Then you have people that just want to burn it all down. So the thing is with it, you see it right now with the rhetoric, how they talk, how they act, how they react into certain things of it. So the more you look at it, the more you can see going, oh, we see it because we're in that world where we were pre-digital and digital, modern age, back age. So we
Analog,
get to see
digital.
both with it. So we have a perspective that Gen X has one of the last perspectives where we know how it was before and we know how it is now. We've
Here,
been through the transition.
because your father is both of your fathers are incredibly technical and very intelligent men. Life started in the basement, and there was a reel to reel. And my sister and I, and father and mother, would record our voices and play them back. And my father would record Gary Puckett and the Union Gap on his reel to reel, and the Platters and the Beach Boys, and play them back. Along with a lot of other doo-wop that should be mentioned, but I'm going to leave it out for time. Then we got a tape recorder right before we moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona. Then we could record in the kitchen and record songs off of the radio directly to the rectangular tape recorder with the 3/4 silver, which was the extended speaker, and the actual push buttons and record and play and fast forward and reverse. But through that time, there's a record player, and my father got a lot of really cheap knockoff records that are awesome colors and have kanji in Vietnamese written all over them, along with in English parts. Because, hey, what else do you spend your money on in Vietnam when your wife is with child back in America? You buy crazy shit. He has a Sanyo, an original 1970s Sanyo record player and tuner and speakers They have two meanings in the 70s and the 80s. The one meaning is, I got this at Sears or whatever affiliate, Sears Roebuck back then. Or, my dad's case, I brought this back from Vietnam, paid about $1.50 for it. Because, well, tariffs and other exchanges that we're not going to get into right now because I'm no economist, nor am I a historic economist that knows about the 70s. So anyway, then from there, we get into 8-tracks. And cars have 8-tracks. This is new. Only certain vehicles had record players, and it didn't go over very well. Not at all. You saw them in movies. But the practicality of a record player but an 8-track, here's basically a reel-to-reel in your car, on your deck, next to it's the next evolutionary step of the 8-track, which the cassette, which is the Generation X is really cassette, 8-tracks and cassettes. That's what they start with. CDs don't come out and CD-ROMs don't come out till the late 80s and the 90s. Really.
When computers start popping their heads in, that's when we see them start coming out.
When
they were really
when lasers become manageable enough to put into your house, that's when we have CD-ROMs. That's when we have CD players. That is the laser disc. It's the precursor to the DVD. Which is where it kind of ends, because after DVD, what do we have? Well, I bought it online and I downloaded it, and it's on my thumb drive. Where is it? It's on my thumb drive, and I can bring it over, and we can watch the movie on your laptop, babe. It's so romantic.
Well, that's the funny thing about it, is that regular media is going away. Where you would own that DVD, you would own that Blu-ray. You don't even own the download. You're only buying the right of use for it for a certain time.
So many DVDs.
And after all, at any time, they could shut that server off and it's gone forever.
Yep.
You don't own it. You're only paying for the right.
Charge you and take all the. Netflix is about to remove Justice League Unlimited. I watch that all the time since you took Futurama off there. God damn it! Oh, it's licensing and. You know what? This is when capitalism sucks.
You'll find it on Warner Brothers channel right now.
I don't want to belong to the Warner Brothers fucking channel. I want it on Netflix, which is the only Sorry,
but that's the reason why they did it, was they wanted to put it on their channel. Money.
I stormed out of the dentist. I can't afford this. Damn it! And yeah, my teeth are fine, but bone loss and periodontal and. You want over $2,000 just to do one half of my mouth, one side?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to take the Let Nature Take Its Course package, so I'm just going to let my teeth fall out. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. I can't afford this.
Yeah, you're only preventing the inevitable. No, it's all money. If you look at everything on it, it's all money, dude.
I'm just going to keep brushing them 3 times a day and hope for the best. That's where we're at.
That's all you could do.
Well, all those old people tried to tell us about our teeth when we were young, and it doesn't matter because every time you brush, the older you get, the more shit comes out of your mouth. I didn't even know I had that. Is that beef jerky? So, yeah.
Hey, Bill, when we grew up, it was just the dentist. Now, you have your dentist, your orthodontist, and your oral surgeon.
Well,
back then, your dentist did all of it.
Yeah.
Except major surgery. They did all of it.
Really
now you have it all broken down.
Yeah, I should have became a dentist. I look back at my life and think, God, I wish I'd listened to everybody that was telling me to do better in high school and actually done. I didn't get really excited about school until like senior year, and by then it was too late. The damage was done because I was too busy being Beavis and Butthead before they existed all through. I'm not going to care, man. I'm not going to need a high school diploma, man. So I bet. Anyway, we don't need to talk about how much of an asshole I was when I was young. I've evolved now. I'm fun. But, yeah, dentists have the ultimate racket. And the problem was that this was more like going... I mean, the guy was nice. He was cordial. Everything was fine. And the thing that, I was telling the dental assistants about how haunted my work is, and one of them goes there all the time, and the other one's never been there. So that was interesting. But the problem is that this is like buying a used car that's falling apart. You're going to pay this and then pay that, and then we're going to do. Dude, I have a loose tooth that's about to fall out. It's when he's like, "Have you ever been to the dentist before? What do you want to do with the tooth?" No, I'm 52, and actually, this is the first time sitting in this chair. Can we like glue this back in? Is that get some super glue and then he didn't think that was funny at all, but the other two cracked up, and he's like, "No, that's not an option." And then the problem is that this isn't a clinic; it's a dentist's office. So all he wants to talk about is dude, we're not restoring a car here. Just yank it out and put some shit in there and let me move on with my day. Well, you've got extensive.
It's not that serious.
Yeah, you've got extensive bone loss, and the roots are gone, and it's going to fall out, and you need to. I can't afford any of that. I'm sorry. I'm just going to take the let nature take its course delete package. And and I told it because I saw the x-rays and they pointed out what was going on, and I'm like, if I was 22, 25, this would be devastating news. But at 52 and divorced, okay, anything to get uglier. Thank you. Please. Yes. Teeth falling out? Okay. So, yeah. You have to be positive when you dealt with adversity. But that's what I look at for the the analog to digital age, and that we've been through it. And we've seen the Maxwell video or audio tape commercials and had a Walkman and owned amplifier and subwoofers and all the stuff that really became mainstream in the 80s that only specialists knew in the 70s and pre-times. Like, I thought the theremin was the neatest thing. And then my father's like, what? They've been around forever. It's just, and then he started to list off the electrical components and their numbers. Really? That's it? He's like, yeah, it's like 9 things. It's no big deal. It's a speaker with a bunch of weird shit. Anyway, let's do this. Let's build a patio so your mother will stop complaining. That's, yeah. But we've been through that. We've seen that. We've gone from dial up, bing, bong, bang, bang. All right, I can get on a BBS now. To now we have amazingly awesome first shooter games that are practically real time, that are better than a lot of cartoons that exist. I think TikTok has replaced cartoons, and that is the downfall of millennials and Gen Z are really not into cereal. Breakfast cereal is in a huge downward spiral. And I believe that's because of the downfall of Saturday morning cartoons, which was ritualistic for us. You either had a huge breakfast with the family, or you woke up and tried not to wake up your mother because she would kill the rest of the family, and ate cereal in front of the television while Thundar the Barbarian and Ookla and Ariel saved post-apocalyptic Gamma World.
What's the funny thing is that when some of them can't take criticism or offense or get offended, like, they're surprised that somebody can say something to me and I'll be like, yeah, so what, whatever, and blow it off. And they would have a nuclear meltdown if it was said to them.
Said that to you. Yeah.
So what, back in our generation, we had comebacks for everything. If I were to say what I really wanted to say, I would be like a comedian like George Carlin. That's our mental attitude was like George Carlin.
Yeah.
What? You think we're bad? Okay, let me show you what bad
Bill
is.
Hicks or Rodney Dangerfield, where if you were at a job for a while and you had a dick that was an assistant manager, not all places, but there's been some of them, and after a couple months, if you're sensitive, you learn how to deal with this guy. And then all of a sudden there's a newbie, a rookie that starts. And you literally, after that guy gets, or woman or man gets chewed out and they're in tears, and you're like, you're going to need to grow a thicker skin. He's just a fucking assistant manager. This is just one chapter in your life. You're not even gonna remember this when you're 30. Because now it's like we talked about it on several other episodes too. Because I'm not in the narcissist level, but I think our conversations are funny, so I go and listen to them again. But
They're hysterical, honestly. I like them.
I think so too. Thank you very much. We're all fun, all three. That's why I wanted to and we got to get Ed on here and DM Rob and your brothers and Ron, and especially Ron and Hannah and a bunch of others.
Oh, Ron would have some pretty good insights. It's because I look at it and I'm like, why are they so that way? And you look at it, and it's somebody that's been coddled too much, or they've been saying you're better than that, or and I look at it and it's like, eventually you got to get said no, or eventually you got to fail, or you got to mess up, and they can't take the criticism or the discipline.
Or they've got like a shit ton going on, and this is just more straws getting to the camel's maximum, and they have a breakdown because, dude, people are only human. I've had several mental breakdowns. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep running. That's what makes you human. The quote is from Jean-Luc Picard in the second iteration of Star Wars, The Next Generation, where you can do something completely the way you're supposed to do it and still fail. This isn't a weakness. This is just being human, and this is the way things happen. Sometime you do all your research, you do all your homework, you talk to everybody, you trust in what you think is the right people, and everything goes sideways for one reason or another. Whether you convinced yourself it wasn't going to happen, or whether you were blindsided by the sudden impact of it happening. Both have happened.
Nothing, you flush them out the airlock and call it done.
That would be so easy if we had airlocks, but we don't. Murder's fun. So oh, go ahead.
Yep. Well, going to your point, it just, some people will recognize that for what it is, what you said. Other people won't. They won't see it. They won't see that, and I don't. It's kind of weird.
I think that the people that think they know everything are morons. And the three of us have run into a lot of people that are very intelligent. And you can always tell the very intelligent ones because they may or may not talk themselves down, but they always ask a shit ton of questions on a topic that they don't know anything about. And they'll, in the topic of education, humility is the absolute best policy, to constantly be humble and to be completely engaging into the new idea. And that goes for like you, the two of you, and Donnie and Ron and Ed, and the ability to continue to learn, like my dad, like so many others, is the ability to put the ego aside for the sake of the knowledge. And humans are not hardwired to do that. It takes exceptional people to have that response. Most people become defensive and will change the subject or bully over you with the rhetoric that they've been programmed with, no matter what the topic. The topic doesn't matter. The topic's impartial. The reaction is the real psychological experiment.
That's true. So true.
The reason that we want to get it's always interesting to hear different. The reason that George Washington is such a prolific leader is because he is the idol of so many other presidents that came after him. Before they were president, they were completely idolizing of him. And if you listen to historians, and I've said it in other podcasts, because I would never want to be president, but I'm absolutely fascinated by the job. I think it takes an inspiring egomaniac to want to run the country. And in the beginning, he didn't really want to be the president. He was a colonel who wanted to be a general. That was his focus. But George Washington was good at three things and had the fourth thing of being tall. One, he was a master spy master. Two, he spent a lot of time failing, and like from the movie Megamind, there's one thing you learn from being a failure over and over and over again is that you learn from your mistakes. So a lot of the things he did by the time of the American Revolution, he really fucked up before that. But one of the things he learns halfway through his life, and it really benefits him, especially in the American Revolution and on, is he's kind of considered not very bright, kind of a boob, kind of slow, but really it just takes him a little bit to process information. He doesn't have the speedy, Columbo monk crime solving properties that one would have in solving problems. So what he does is he creates a cadre, an enclave. He gets people around him that are very smart, that have fast minds, like Hamilton, like so many others, and like Knox, and he wants to hear what they have to say, because George's thing is everybody knows something that I don't, or even better, everybody has a perception point of view that I don't have, because not everybody looks at things differently, even though they're all looking at the same thing. So that's how he generaled, and then he carries that into the presidency. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm not necessarily going to do what you want me to do, but I really value your point of view because I don't have it yet. And I think that is a very humble way to lead, to govern, to be aware that you don't know everything. This is why serial killers and criminals get caught, because they have the ego, narcissism, gaslighting thing of no one's going to touch this. We're untouchable. We're powerful. We'll do that. No, dude, you got a team of people working against you, and you're eventually going to fuck up. It's only a matter of time. There. That's
Interesting.
a small piece of my mind. You're welcome.
Well, it's so true because it goes with the accountability, it goes with the humble and stuff on it. That you see people don't want to take it, or they placate it to somebody else. And I see it on the shows. I see it on when people talk about it in different shows and stuff on it. Oh, it's not my fault. I was raised that way. Or you see them say, I cheated on my girlfriend because of this, or I cheated on my husband because of that. And they never take the responsibility that they did it. Nobody else made the decision. The actions they went to do. When people say, oh, it was a mistake. No, it wasn't. A mistake is accidentally putting peanut butter on the wrong piece of bread. Accidentally dropping something. It's not premeditated.
A mistake is talking while you're at work and putting a paper in the filing cabinet and putting it in the wrong folder while you're having a conversation with a coworker. That's a mistake. And having your boss go, here it is, Bill, I found it. It's in this wrong folder. Sorry, I was talking, and you know how I like to talk, so that, everybody knows.
Yeah, a lot of things that they call mistakes are premeditated. They had to have thought behind it. There's like some malice or callous about it on how they did it. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I didn't know it would hurt you. Yeah. The excuses that people use when you listen to me, like it's like my biggest pet peeve, and you guys know this, and Bill, you definitely know this, is when somebody says, I don't mean to offend you, but anything after the but is going to be offensive, and they try to do the prerequisite saying, I don't mean to offend you. Well, if you don't mean to offend me, shut up. Don't say anything. Don't even mention it. It's not worth mentioning. Anything after the but, I disregard. I go, nope. If you don't mean to offend, don't say offended.
Or Paul's that way, you're fine. I don't mean to be a dick, but I'm about to be a dick. Oh, thanks, dude.
I'm about to be.
Well, I'm just saying it because I love you. No, you're saying it because this is a bullying tactic.
Yeah, it's a bully technique, and a disregard with it. And a lot of people I cut off halfway through that. When anybody says it, I go like this. I just put my hand up. And if they continue saying, I just walk away because I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear the
negative energy. because they can.
Yeah, I got just because they can't. No, because they're.
I don't mean to be a dick, but you're going to be a dick. Well, I just thought it was going to be a dick. Oh, dude, I don't want to hear this.
Like you excuse the rest of it to be it, and I look at it and I'm like, no, you just if you. I much prefer if you went out and said it.
Yeah. Rob, how tired of you are you? Because I want to.
Yeah, Robert said.
I'm getting to that point.
Okay.
So
Last
Oh Dark
topic.
30 comes early.
It does.
Thank you, Rob.
Yesterday was Sunday. I did a bunch of errands, and one of those errands was picking up. I went to the dispensary,
Uh-huh.
and I noticed something there that was already there, not in the dispensary. I got a half ounce of shake and a couple joints, and it turned out to be $32. So all I had was two 20s. I didn't have ones. So I put the 20s on the counter, and he came by with the pen, and he marked them with the pen, and I said, oh no, they should be dry by now. Because he laughed and answered me with a couple of other counterfeit money jokes. And this is interesting if you think about it. And we should look into the history of it. Well, I'll have to do that before our next show and come back with it. Because what did you hear when you were kids from your grandfather? Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
Don't take a wooden nickel.
There you go.
Yeah.
So 100 years later, 110 years after World War One, we're still making money jokes. And I bet 5,000 years ago, when society first started, we were making money jokes. So I find that interesting.
We still gotta be making money jokes.
I think so.
Dude, I kind of wish you were in some of the loss prevention classes that I've been in, where we talked about the super notes and about the $100 bills and the stuff on it.
I'm very
And
disruptive in classes, but okay.
But the secrets I know about the dollars and stuff on the new stuff that they show us as GMs to how to look at counterfeits,
Yeah.
that regular people never look at. It's amazing all the little stuff that they put in the modern day bills that you would never think about, the micro printing, where it's at, what's located, what's hidden in there, and how to tell the bills between a fake bill and a new bill. And even at that, what I know, it's not what the Treasury knows, because there's stuff I know that they kept from me. They showed me enough how to validate it. They didn't show me everything.
Much like if a politician promises to fix the problem and then fixes the problem, you don't need him anymore. So the problem's going to stay a problem. Same thing with, if I tell you all about the money, what's to stop you from making the money?
Making a bigger, better bill.
Yeah. If I tell you everything about that goes back to Tesla, Nikola Tesla, not the man, not the car company Tesla, where when Tesla would do schematics, he would purposefully draw them wrong so that no one could steal his patents after the radio, because Marconi patented the radio, but Tesla invented it and kept going and invented the first radio-controlled, used boats first. Now we have cars and toy robots and all manner of other drones and crazy stuff. But, yeah, I found that very interesting. So chew on that for a while.
Yeah, Tesla was also very magnanimous.
Yes.
He was a man that had he wanted to be known for his intellect, not for his fortune.
Right.
He wanted enough money to be able to continue to do his work. But
Yes.
He wasn't looking to sell all of these things. He just wanted to be recognized as having provided the knowledge, the experience, the education.
We should do a whole episode on Nikola Tesla because I've read a lot of books about him. I wanted to do a steampunk style comic series about him. I wanted to do a whole, like, what if Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, what if Wyatt Earp didn't give up on Doc Holliday and stole him out of the sanitarium and took him to Colorado Springs from Greenboro, Colorado, And Tesla's like, I can't cure you, but I can keep you going. So, and Annie Oakley and Houdini and Edgar Cayce. It was a. I still hope to make it a like a radio program. That would be fun. But
Yeah.
everybody I've sent the script to never sends a word back. So, and then I went back and read the script, and I'm like, maybe Grody's right. I'm not really a writer. I'm an idea man. That's why I don't write the scripts for these show, and a lot of them are barely an outline. We just kind of do it free format, which is kind of better. And we can always go back and edit it later as soon as I learn how to do that.
But then you can have the fun admin.
True.
Jefferson's muffler bearings. Jefferson's muffler bearings. The best muffler bearings you can buy.
Hey, I don't mind doing. I got the radio announcer voice. I love doing commercials.
Oh, there goes my phone. Oh, no.
Uh-oh. What happened to your phone?
Oh, my phone is shutting down. I got it plugged in, but I think it's going bye-bye now.
Okay. Well, we've almost at 3 hours anyway, and Rob's getting tired and has to be at work at 4.
Yeah, the old man is
the oldest man of the old men. Thank you very much for watching the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Stay geeky. That's very important.
Right. Be
And
good. If you can't be good, don't get caught.
Yeah. Let us know. We're going to get Chris Newton on also because I'm trying to help him get his podcast started. Because back in 2005, when I hadn't even, Guy and I we would talk for a while and then there'd be a couple years. Chris Newton put out an announcement that he wanted to get artists and writers together to try to create a community, and he was meeting at a cafe. And I was still trying to write comics, and I really wanted to be a comic book writer and make comic books. But there is a big artist gene in the Kelly family. I didn't get it. I got the storytelling gene instead, and the people reading gene, where Beth got the art gene, and Marie didn't really get it at all. She got the business aspect of it. So I went down there, and Chris had a stroke and a heart attack, and he's visually impaired. So then he created Core 6, which, oh no, we lost Guy. So hopefully we'll get him on. We should probably go now that we don't have Guy anymore and his phone died. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And we appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Thank you. You have a good night.
Have a good night.
Sleep tight, sir. Thank you. Bye.